Charbonnet. Still going. He is a bowling ball.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Jordan. That's going to be a big run. 30, 20. Forget it. Louisville on the board first here at Fenway.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Wide open and right in is Zane Pope. A brilliant opening drive by Hayner and the Bulldogs.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
This is picked off. This is picked off by Marshall, and the Thundering Herd are going to have a pick six. That is big old Isaiah Gibson on the pick and a 34-yard return.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Play action. Gulbranson setting up, looking to take a shot. Floats it deep downfield. Diving catch at the 21 by Silas Bolden.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Welcome into 365 Sports. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. Smokey has the day off. Back tomorrow for bowl game coverage, and then he will be here flying solo on Friday. And then next week, it's going to get a little different, a little wild because of bowl game coverage. We've got some different things that we'll tell you about later. But thank you for joining us here on National Signing Day. Craig Smoak comes back for his second tour of duty in the studio today after the National Signing Day show he did earlier on Baylor. And we've got a lot to talk about on the show today. There's so many different things. We will have the Baylor perspective, obviously, but Craig spent most of his morning doing that. If you want more Baylor perspective, just go back and watch it. It's on the Sikkim 365 Baylor channel. We will take more of a national look at this as we hop around the country with Brandon Helwig of UCF Sports, Josh McQuiston, Sooner Scoop, Jeff Howe, Horns 24/7, Jeremy Clark, Horn Frog Blitz, Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com, Olin Buchanan of TexAgs.com. So we'll get a bunch of different perspectives on teams from around the country today. But the big news for Baylor, and subsequently, I think the big national story today is Oregon, and that Austin Novosad left Baylor's commitment list, committed to Oregon last night. And a guy they've had committed since September, maybe even a little bit longer than that, is now gone and off to Oregon. And Craig, as much as you can, say the good things about this class, the one thing everybody will remember is losing Austin Novosad.
Yeah, I mean, for right now, for today, that's what they're going to remember, of course, because that's the fresh news. But he didn't commit in September, Paul. He committed in December of last year. Okay. He committed December 16th of last year. He committed over a year ago. So, yeah, this wasn't like a guy who was at camp and committed and then they lost him at the end. This was a guy who they had this time a year ago, didn't recruit really any other quarterbacks, and went all in on him, and that was ultimately a mistake. And, here comes Oregon, who loses their quarterback commit to UCLA, and they've got money to burn, and they've got, a coach that he's familiar with, and they've got some juice from the season that they're coming off of, and they've just got a lot of things, including good timing. And so they're able to flip Austin Novosad over the last few days. I mean, Dave Aranda was just at his house talking to him, less than a week ago and trying to lock things down. I'm not sure how much of a perspective he had walking away from that on the likelihood of this happening, but he had to have had some idea, you'd think, but it's too little too late to really do anything about it. They didn't have any other guides. There's no option B. I mean, there was no option B because of option A as in Austin. He's got his own choices to make, and that's the risk that they ran with recruiting him the way that they did. And so they lose him, and Oregon's gone and I've seen, done some damage elsewhere. So it's not like this is just, the one big get on the day for them. They've gone and, had some other, big-time pulls. So they're clearly, going all in on signing day and making some big splashes. And you can chalk that up to whatever you want to, whether it's Lanning, NIL, Will Stein, whatever. They're putting the work in and getting results. So good for Oregon on the one hand. And then for Baylor, yeah, it's a bad deal. We got over it pretty quickly after talking about it. We had to get it out there because it was obviously a big story. But, at this point, it's whatever. I mean, they're going to sign 20 guys, 21, 23 counting transfers, and they're going to obviously – let's just get this bowl game over with tomorrow, and then we can all go from there and see who he hires as defensive coordinator and who they pursue. But, just a bad blow, part of recruiting, part of the deal. I've seen worse, quite frankly, even though this is pretty up there in terms of Baylor things that I've seen. And they're without a quarterback in this class, and it's the second class in a row without a quarterback. Right now they've got one scholarship quarterback, Blake Shapen. And heading into the offseason, they've got one scholarship quarterback in Blake Shapen. So that can't be the situation in spring. And they not only need another guy, they probably need another two guys. And so if you can't manage keeping guys on, that's going to be easier said than done, is convincing two players that, one of them you could say, oh, well, you'll be the guy once he leaves, or you'll have a chance to be the guy. But how you pitch two guys, and they're going to have to. I mean, they need the depth. That will be interesting to see.
Yeah, it really is. And, look, the story nationally today, Baylor is caught up in it, but it is Oregon. I mean, Oregon has done this to now a kid who was going to Notre Dame in Bowen, and some Texas guys in this as well. They've done it with a player going to LSU, and they've done it with a player going to Oklahoma. So they have done, they have flipped three or four different guys today, maybe even more, with maybe more in the offing, that are all going to big schools. So I understand the woe is me from Baylor fans right now, but Dan Lanning and Oregon are hot and making noise today in the recruiting world. I think that's the big story of the day, is that they've been able to swoop in and grab some of these guys, beginning with Austin Novosad. And so, we'll see, how it turns out for Oregon and everybody down the line, because this is the day of hope, right, Craig? This is the day where it's either hope or, you're sad about whatever. But, 365 days from now, half of this means nothing, because the cycle starts again with the transfer portal and everything else.
Yes and no. It starts over, but it doesn't really. It starts over with a new class, but your program's not going anywhere. Your program doesn't hit reset every year necessarily. So Austin Novosad's in the Oregon program now. They lost the quarterback in Moore to UCLA. They got a new one in a few days. Mm-hmm. Baylor lost the quarterback, and now what do? They don't wait till next year to hit reset. So it's not exactly like that. It's a little bit more problematic for Baylor. From the Oregon standpoint, you celebrated and you're happy that you got Austin Novosad and you got some other big time guys today. Mateo Uiagalelei, and I'm probably butchering that a little bit, but big time edge rusher, 5-star. They got him out of California. They got some others as well that joined the fray this morning. So it's a boon for them. And again, you chalk it up to whatever area you want to, or a combination of things that are working in their favor, and they're taking full advantage. And that's why they've got a top 10-ish recruiting class, and Baylor's at the mercy of one of those decisions. And unfortunately for them, the class was built around the guy who flipped this morning. Now, thankfully, it didn't seem to have any effect on the rest of their class, but this is the thing I have a hard time with, though, is you give props, but to what extent do you give props? You did a really good, who did a better recruiting job on Austin Novosad? Technically Oregon at the end, but how? in a week's time after they lost a guy versus Baylor, who recruited him the entire way. Well, Oregon won the fight, so they recruited him better. Did they recruit him better, or did they just swoop in at the end and steal him away? And they still get credit for that, but do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like it's a tough pill to swallow, because the relationships and all those things. I mean, they had him under lock for a year, and on National Signing Day, he decides to change his mind. Of all the times that he could have done it, the trips to A&M, the trips to Ohio State. Look, it's part of recruiting. It is what it is. I don't want to dwell too much on him. Give Oregon their props, but I'm not going to act like it was all like just old school. They hit the visits. No. They found a diamond in the rough, and they were on him early. It was none of that. It was whatever you want to chalk it up to, NIL, Dan Lanning, the brand, what have you. And so their gain is Baylor's loss for sure. But they're going to end up with a top 10, top 5 class when all is said and done. And Baylor's going to have to, scramble and, again, get this bowl game out of get the stupid bowl game. I mean, I say stupid bowl game. It's a game they need to win, but it's so in the way of everything. It's tomorrow night. It's like signing days right now. You wish you could just flip the page to what's next, but what's next to the bowl game tomorrow night. So that's going to be a big relief, I think, when they get that one out of the way and can kind of refocus, because there's nothing you're going to do in the next 24 hours that changes the loss of Novosad. So
no, but one of their signees, Baylor running back, or I guess he's athlete, Bryson Washington from Franklin. We're expecting him to join the show. We've had a little bit of trouble getting in touch with him in the last half hour or so, but we'll see. We're going to, and I hate using this word, we're going to effort that. It's a completely invented media word when it comes to that. So we're going to make sure we try to get him on the show today to talk about his commitment to Baylor, what he sees coming down the future. But yeah, there's plenty of quarterbacks in the portal, but are they guys that fit? And you're going to have to, find a guy who's probably was a true freshman this year to come in, because you want somebody who might, have some potential going in. You probably need somebody who is, like an Alan Bowman, who was at Texas Tech and then at Michigan, like somebody like that, because you'll want some experience behind Blake Shapen. And it, really the bubble popped. But there are good things all around. But so far, everything on National Signing Day other than flips, the big schools get the big guys, and that's kind of what's gone on. Alabama's going to have the top class with the most 5 stars. Miami's had a great class. A&M doesn't appear, nothing last year has appeared to have hurt them. We'll talk about them later with Olin Buchanan, including Jimbo Fisher today, Craig, in his press conference, pretty much saying, yes, the new OC is going to call plays. Yes, I'm going to be an executive. There's a lot of things I don't see. So that's a big, like if he was in like therapy, that would like be a big step forward of him admitting like, okay, I get that things have to change. So good for Jimbo Fisher. But, for Baylor overall, I think it's good. They've lost a bunch of their guys that were going to move this class up in the rankings a little bit more. But, I think the story for Baylor the last month has just been negative. They need some good news. Like one of the reasons they need to win that bowl game tomorrow night, because they need some good news. It's been all kind of bummer news for the last month.
Yeah, it has. It's been a rough run. They, got a lot to figure out and sort out, and this was just kind of a cherry on top of what's been kind of punches to the gut, slowly but surely over the last couple to 3 weeks, really going all the way back to, where do you want to go back? Do you want to go back to K-State? I mean, the loss there was pretty embarrassing after – all the fan efforting to get the crowd right and all that, and then you just go get blown out by K-State. The loss to TCU was awful. Had no business losing that game, and they did. And we saw what TCU went and did afterwards and how they're taking advantage of that. Then you lost to Texas, and that was a game where, you were in it for a little while. They eventually pulled away. That's fine, but it was just capping off a losing streak. And then, you fire your DC. You fire your safeties coach / special teams coordinator. You lose the quarterback commit. I mean, it's been kind of seemingly one thing after another. And I don't know how you do shelve that other than just going out, like you said, and winning the game tomorrow night. Your last game with this last group of guys, and obviously, Dave Aranda spoke earlier today, and had a couple of things that he mentioned in terms of, the class, but also, Siaki Ika's not going to play in the game tomorrow, which is a blow when you're playing a running team like Air Force, but also not surprising because if I was an NFL prospect like him, I'm not going and playing in 10-degree weather against Air Force at TCU Stadium. No, even I don't care if somebody takes that disrespectfully. If you take that disrespectfully, then I don't care because that would just be dumb on his part. And so he's not going to play. So that's, I guess, a minor blow in comparison to the others. But yeah, the answer to everything is winning. If it's not cash, then it's winning. Winning changes everything, and they haven't been winning, and things have compounded as a result of that. And so going out and winning a game tomorrow night would be a big deal to end the season above 500 with the losing streak broken, and which is something, to kind of grasp onto and hold on to put the final chapter to bed for this particular version of this football team, and then get directly into, whatever little breath you need to take or whatever little off-season, dead period, little vacation you need to take, and then get to work and do a lot of retooling here over the next few weeks and months because there's a good foundation. They didn't just go from Big 12 champs to 6-6, 6-7, 7-6, whatever they're going to end as. But they have had a few misses, a few misdiagnoses that have led to, and a few results that just went differently that they got the year prior. It's like TCU. This year was their year. They were incredibly lucky up until that Kansas State game in certain situations. And you could easily map out them having 3 or 4 losses. Same way last year you could have mapped out Baylor having 3 or 4 losses, but they ended up with 2. And TCU ended up with 1. So, it happens. But, yeah, they got to grab the bull by the horn somehow or another, and a good starting point would be to win that game tomorrow night.
Yeah, they really do. And it's been nothing but, it's been nothing but kind of, downward slopes. But here's one of the upward ones. Bryson Washington from Franklin High School joins us now. He signed with Baylor this morning. Bryson, congratulations on finishing the process, making your college choice. What was this process like for you, and what ultimately led you to choose Baylor?
I would say it was a very long, and it wasn't that hard to me, just going up to Baylor. And feeling that atmosphere and, being around the football players, I just knew it was going to be home from the first time I went up there.
So, Bryson, what kind of relief are you feeling today, having actually inked your letter of intent? Everything's finalized. There's no more visits, all the kind of the circus that comes with the recruiting game. What's it like to just have it all official?
Man, it feels good. I'm just ready to get up there to school, contribute to the team, just do what I do best, play football.
So, Bryson, I know services list you as an athlete. You're going to play running back, correct? Is that what they expect you to do?
Yes, sir.
And do you like this zone, the wide zone offense? Do you think it fits you pretty well?
Oh, yes, sir. I think it fits me very well.
What about it do you like the most?
I just like what I like about Baylor football. They love to run the ball. And I noticed that for the past years that I've been going to their games, and I like to run the ball. So, it's just a match.
Bryson, who are the coaches that you really were able to connect with? Sure, obviously you're your position coach, but, who are the guys that you were able to really get along with and look forward to linking up with again once you hit campus here in Waco?
I was able to connect with almost all the coaches, Coach Baker, Coach Aaron Hunt, Larry, they all were cool to me. And I would say the players are very cool too. Like, we got a good connection. Like, they keep in contact with you, and they hit me up all the time, and they made me feel like a brother. So that's another reason why I feel like Baylor was so easy for me.
Did the other running backs, the guys that are here now, that they made you feel good about what you're stepping into?
Yes, sir, they did.
Which one do you feel like you were the closest with?
I would say probably Quaylen Jones.
He had a really strong close to the year, Quaylon Jones did, and he seems like a guy who, would really be good at that. And we got an email from Coach Fannin, your high school coach, today, and he said, Bryson is an incredibly talented football player. There are not many players that possess the size, speed, and physicality he does, but what makes Bryson so special is the person he is off the field. He's a one-of-a-kind human being that has tremendous leadership skills and has the respect of every single person in the locker room, school building, and community because of the way he carries himself. Where did you get that, where it wasn't just about what you are on the football field, it's about the total person?
My mom, she always, growing up, she always taught me and my siblings that, your personality always go first. Like how you treat people, they'll treat you better and in the long run, So I always value that, and I always wanted to treat people good, the little kids, even the older people, you just can't disrespect anybody,
How much then did the saying of person over player resonate with you? Did that kind of click? Just being that good person like you're talking about.
I mean, I feel that every time Coach Miranda said that, me and my mom were eyeing at each other because she loved what he was saying, and I liked what he was saying too as well. Because she taught me, like, growing up, that the same thing, honestly, like, you're a person before you're a player, and Coach Miranda, he just hit it on the dot when I heard it.
So is the last, knowing that you get to sign on a Wednesday, was the last week, do you get, like, more and more anxious just to get it done? Because, again, this is where coaches make their final push. It's where all these things kind of happen. Do you get antsy? What was your feeling, particularly the last 3 to 4 days?
Honestly, I was calm, I knew I was staying with Baylor the whole time, so I wasn't really worried about any coaches, like, hitting me up, trying to give me the switch or anything like that. I knew where I was going to go at the beginning of my recruitment, and I was just waiting on Baylor. And once I got them, I was just ready to go.
Bryson, basically the whole class is signed at this point of the 20 or so guys. There's even a couple of the transfers that have announced over the last couple of days, like Keytron Jackson. They've already signed as well. There was the big flip with the quarterback spot. I mean, there's no hiding that. What's just kind of the thought process on your end? Not so much asking you what you think about that in particular, but just what's the kind of mindset of the class knowing that you did lose a big piece on the Even National Signing Day?
I would never knock anyone, from switching over, because I know this big recruiter process. It could be stressful for some people, and it's like a lot of people pushing you. Like at first, like in the beginning, I was a little stressed, and I was just ready to get it over with. And so I just say, I don't want to, knock him down
right
for flipping, but I respect him. I just respect him for doing what he did.
Is the mindset, though, among the guys just kind of like, hey, that's just part of the deal, let's get to work?
Yes, sir, it is.
Yeah.
We already figured, like, going into this, we were texting in the group chat, so we already kind of knew it was coming. Mm-hmm. But, you gotta be expecting anything to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way of this and how it goes. Bryson, Franklin's not too far from Waco. You are pretty close. When you make that first start or play your first game at Baylor, how you feel like there's going to have to be somebody staying around Franklin to make sure the lights are all off?
Man, I already know my people are going to come support me, so I'm not really too much worried about that. But, I do expect to see some people,
Yeah. You've mentioned your mom a couple times throughout the interview. How close are the two of you?
My mom is like she's my right hand man. Anything about me, she knows. I don't go one day without talking to my mom. So she just, I don't know how to explain it. She's like my best friend, like my everything.
Well, I bet she's happy that you're going to be, close by. Sometimes they end up halfway across the country. That can be hard on mom, so I'm sure she's happy about that. What's it like to be, and I'm sure that'll be great for you too, as well, to have her close by, but I wanted to ask you, what's it like to be a back-to-back state champion?
I mean, it feels good. I wanted to finish my senior season out with a bang, and we did that. I love my brothers that I played with this year. They didn't want me to go out with a loss, so, they kept fighting for everybody on the team, and I respect them for that, because, not too many players want to play 16 weeks. Some of them, they're ready for basketball or something like that, but, my team, they stayed the course. They locked in, and they wanted to win.
Well, look, it's good. As the 12-team playoff now in college football, the best teams are going to play 16 weeks. The Texas kids are already ready for it, aren't they, Bryson?
Yes, sir.
Well, hey, man, congratulations on that. That's a big deal, winning back-to-back state titles. So what's kind of your next thing up? I know you want to take probably a bit of a breather and just enjoy today, but what's kind of your schedule now moving forward as far as, eventually getting to Baylor? What have the coaches kind of told you and those types of things?
So the latest I'll be getting on campus is probably the 14th. So, I'm going to go take some time out because I got my family in Dallas. I might just go stay with them for a little bit and get some workouts in and, just chill with them because I haven't been around them in a minute. So that's what I feel like I'm going to do. And then once it hits probably the 11th, I'm going to go up on campus the 11th through the 14th. I don't know which day yet. So once we get to 11th, that's when I'm going to figure out when I'm going to get up there.
So you're going to early enroll in January? Yes, sir. All right. Yes, sir. Good deal. All right. So, enjoy the protracted end of being a high school student and becoming a college student. Live it up.
Yes, sir. I got you.
Well, Bryson, congratulations. Thank you very much. Go enjoy your family. Have a great holiday, and thanks for hopping on the show today.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, that's Bryson Washington, Franklin High School, soon to be in less than a month, a Baylor student, and here on campus. So a big signing for them. Like you said, Craig, back-to-back state champion. If you've seen him the last couple of years, this is a good player they got, and I think he does fit what they do running the ball.
Yeah, he does. He'll fit the scheme really well that Jeff Grimes loves with the wide zone scheme. And, yeah, a guy who will probably play pretty much right away, I would think. They've got Richard Reese, and beyond that, they've got question marks. Is Quaylen Jones back? Is Squirrel Williams back? I think all of that is sort of up in the air. Richard Reese, I feel confident that he'll be back, but I don't know about the rest of the roster at multiple places. And, again, tomorrow night, that bowl game, get that thing out of the way or win that thing and then move along, and you'll be able to start answering some roster questions. But certainly having him on campus early is going to be beneficial, and I would definitely expect him to be one of those guys, if he puts the work in, that we'll see the field early. All right, we got to the first break here. We're going to dive into it. We're kind of fast and furious through guest UCF coming up. Brandon Helwig, UCFsports.com. This is 365 Sports.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Paul, Catalina, Craig Smoak. Smoky back tomorrow. Brandon Hellwig, Rivals.com, UCF, UCFsports.com. You can find him there. UCF, Brandon, this is one of the more, to me, interesting stories of signing day because you've got a team that is now going into the Big 12 next season. You've got a coach that came from the SEC and kind of is making a bit of a seamless transition. They have had, I know, guys committed, guys flipped. They flipped guys from other place. But how would you assess overall signing day for the Knights?
Yeah, it was a great day at UCF, and I think they're finally seeing what that Big 12 and Power 5 label can do. This was really the first full year they've had to recruit a class that, telling the guys, yes, we're going to the Big 12. You're going to be part of the inaugural team that leads us there. And, yeah, I mean, we'll see how the final rankings pan out because it's so different these days because, half the class will probably be high school, half will be portal, and that's all kind of pending. But just based on, how I'm looking at things and who they were able to get, who they out-recruited to get a lot of these guys, this should be UCF's best ever class. And really the biggest takeaway from the UCF perspective is that, UCF, they've been able to win some recruiting battles through the years. Guys from Florida, maybe early playing time was a big thing. But, I wouldn't say they've truly competed head-to-head with what for years we traditionally in Florida would call the Big Three, that being Florida State, and Miami. But this year, without a doubt, and particularly against Florida, which has kind of become something of a little recruiting rival, to be honest, they were able to get 3 guys that, Florida either had been committed to Florida or wanted to go to Florida. And, really the biggest name is defensive tackle John Walker, really one of the best players in the entire country. He's been committed to UCF. He was solid. Florida made a huge push to get him, and he stuck with UCF. And today, some big news, Isaiah Nixon. He had been committed to UCF at one point, had been committed to Florida since June, and Florida really didn't see it coming. This week, he decided to go with his heart and change his mind with the school that he really wanted to go to. Probably right at the onset, he flipped from Florida to UCF. So that's probably been the biggest storyline from today.
Brandon, what was kind of the focus, do you feel like, for this class? I mean, some classes, they're looking to load up on offensive line. Some classes are looking to load up on skill guys. Was there anything particular there, or was this kind of just a broad brushstroke?
Yeah, I'd say it's a broad brush. When you kind of look at how it's going to break down, they signed, I guess it's going to be 14, I believe, high school and junior college players. And that's kind of what the attention was today, National Signing Day. But it's, when we look at the overall class with transfers, there's going to be a lot of those. Right now we currently have 8 transfers committed, and I guess that's kind of how, we'll see how it goes. I know some coaches are like, yeah, we want to, I think every coach wants to build out of the high school. Guys that obviously want to come here straight out of the gate. They want to develop in the program and play multiple years, but just with the way it goes and you got to compete, you want to field a winning team every year. And that means you need to go get an experienced guy, someone what you're getting. So it's going to be a big transfer class for UCF as well. We'll see how it shakes out. But they're with guys who have committed in the last few days, they're plugging holes at DB, offensive line, receivers. So I think that'll be the trend for UCF in the Big 12 going forward. They'll probably be one of those teams that might have a few more transfers maybe than other schools.
Well, I know that they lost a couple of guys. I mean, most importantly, the Brown brothers situation affected them very directly with both those kids going to Miami now. But, it does seem that Gus has very much stabilized all that, because is he a guy who can kind of, lose to the portal, but get back maybe more than he lost?
Yeah, and to be honest, there's another situation. UCF essentially lost both of their coordinators in the last week, with offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey going to North Carolina and Travis Williams going to Arkansas. He made a quick promotion in-house of Addison Williams as defensive coordinator. But even despite all of that, for the most part, the recruiting class remained intact. They still were able to hold on to some of their best players. There was a couple of linebackers that may or may not be in the class that kind of parted ways, but he did a great job kind of holding everything together. And I think that just kind of speaks volumes as the experience that Gus Malzahn has. And just, this isn't, he's been around the block a couple of times with high stakes recruiting. So he knows what he's doing.
What is the thought as far as offensive coordinator goes?
That's interesting. I think, if anyone's, familiar with Gus Malzahn through the years, and, obviously he's, an offensive mastermind, wrote a book about it, the No Huddle, maybe like 20 years ago now. And he's always prided himself on being, when he got to be a head coach, is pretty much still being the offensive coordinator, developing the game plan, calling plays. There's maybe been a time or two in his Auburn past that, he may have hired someone who, I think Chad Morris kind of took that responsibility off. His play might have been his last year at Auburn. I know when he got to UCF, he's like, I'm a coach. I'm an offensive coach. I'm always going to call plays. But, from what we're hearing, and we had another media session with him a couple of days ago, I pretty much asked him straight up, because I'd heard the rumor that when he hires a coordinator, he's probably going to delegate everything to them. He's going to hire a coordinator that's going to coordinate. They're going to be in charge of that entire side of the ball. They're going to call plays. They're going to do game plans. And he pretty much said that's what his plan is. He just said this day and age, he said a lot of his peers in the coaching profession that he knows that have kind of done the same thing he does. Is, you've got roster management, you've got portal to worry about, you got recruiting, you got NIL, you got fundraising. It's all this stuff you got to juggle. And it's just, there's so much on his plate, and I think he's feeling right now that he'll be better served as kind of being that CEO of the UCF program. And as far as names, I'm not sure what direction they're going to go. It's obviously going to be a lot more attractive job now that, someone's coming in and they're going to have that title, and they're truly going to be an OC, and then going into the Big 12. So if you're a coordinator and maybe you want to, make a mark and maybe kind of, do something that might get you looks at as a future head coach, it should be a very good job.
Is there, I know he and Hugh Freeze were buddies, and Hugh has now got his old job at Auburn. One, how does he feel about that? And do you think there'll be any kind of transference of, I know they've already got their coordinator set at Auburn, but do you think there'll be any kind of transference there between coaches overall?
Yeah, that was kind of a funny thing because, I don't think it's, you mentioned it, everyone knows that they're very good friends. And I think when Hugh Freeze got the job, I think Gus kind of had a jokey tweet kind of saying, hey, he's got a box full of old, sweater vests and visors or something if he wanted to, take off his hands to Auburn. And yeah, there was a little bit of drama. I mean, there was one of UCF's higher rated recruits in this class, Braden Marshall. He's a 4-star defensive back from the local Orlando area. I think his father went to Auburn. He grew up an Auburn fan. Auburn was honestly his dream school. Wasn't really recruited by the previous Auburn staff. And in the last couple of weeks, Auburn, when Hugh Freeze gets there, they enter the picture. They offer him. He goes on an official visit last weekend, and a lot of us were wondering, like, I know he's been committed to UCF for a long time. It's kind of awkward. You got Auburn coming after him now, but he stuck with UCF. So that was one of the ones we were waiting on today. But yeah, it's kind of interesting, that whole Hugh Freeze dynamic, being that Gus used to be there and they're such great friends.
So how do you say the quarter? Is it Rizik or Rizik?
It's Risk. It
Risk.
Just looks like just look like the Z, look like an S. Just assume it's an S. It's Risk.
Yeah, okay. Dylan Risk, the quarterback get. Obviously here in Waco there was a big flip, and Baylor's still now on the search for a quarterback prospect, but UCF does land theirs in Dylan Risk. What do you know about him as far as being their quarterback target?
Well, he's been playing in one of the top high school programs in the state of Florida. I think he won a state championship last year. I think they were in the championship game. Or almost nearly got back to the championship game this year. He's a guy that they've had their eye on, and we'll see how it goes. Right now, the quarterback position, it's pretty much John Rice Plumlee's to lose. He was the starter this past season. Very athletic player on there. UCF did have Mikey Keene play a little bit. He's transferring to Fresno State. But kind of the interesting dynamic is that, John Rice Plumlee is a baseball player as well. He wasn't eligible to play last year because he transferred too late, but he's going to go all in with baseball this spring. And so Dylan Risk doesn't, I don't think he enrolls until the summer. So it's going to be Thomas Castellanos, who was a freshman this past year. And then there's another transfer. I think he kind of gets overlooked a little bit because he transferred to UCF back in August, but former South Florida starter Timmy McClain. In that program, he was not named the starting quarterback. They went, speaking of Baylor, they went with the Baylor transfer as the starter, and when that happened, he hit the portal. He transferred to UCF during preseason camp, and so it'll probably be Timmy McClain and Thomas Castellanos going at it, and John Rice Plumlee, I guess, will rejoin the team after baseball season.
Well, Brandon, thanks so much. Can't wait to see you guys in the Big 12. We're looking forward to that. I'm sure you guys are waiting with bated breath like we are to see what the schedule is actually going to be.
Yeah, I mean, there's the rumors. I think everyone's heard rumors. I think there's a rumor, UCF might go on the road to Oklahoma. Maybe they're going to host Oklahoma State. I think we can throw all that out the window. It looks like they're going to have to reconfigure everything with the likelihood that OU and Texas are gone in 24, because I know they wanted all the newcomers to be able to play everybody, including those teams in that 2-year period. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe it sounds like by February 1st they'll have some news on that.
Well, the countdown's on, or the countdown's on and popping, or it's already hit zeros because it's Big 12 time now, right? I mean, that's pretty cool. So, looking forward to that and looking forward to seeing this schedule, Brandon. We really appreciate you, man.
All right, guys. Thanks.
All right, Brandon Hellwig, UCFsports.com, part of the Rivals Network, on with us. And so, they were, to me, were just kind of an interesting story because of you're coming into the Power Five the first year. You've got a coach who's pretty accomplished in Gus Malzahn outside of, the group of five. He was at Auburn. He's, taking teams to national championship games. So, how does he transition in this year? And you heard it. They feel pretty good about what they're doing, although most of their stuff, because they are UCF, is going to be in the portal. I mean, that's where they're, I think they kind of make their big time hay, I think.
I mean, that's pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
Now at this point, I mean, all of the big National Signing Day stuff is basically revolving around the same 8 to 10 schools based on what I've seen today. Oregon, obviously hitting it big. They're one of the headliners. Texas has had a big day. And there's others that you could throw into that mix as well. But yeah, I mean, for most, you're going to have to do some combination of recruiting high school guys and portal guys and JUCO guys. And, it's just eye of the beholder on how you want to go about doing that. And there's no, this is the one winning strategy. Everybody's got their own, way of divvying that up. Everybody's going to dip into it somewhat. We were talking about Kirby Smart, and people are under the impression that he doesn't like the portal or is not going to recruit out of the portal because they didn't get anybody last year. And I had to reiterate, he said that's only because they just didn't get the guy or guys that they wanted. They just weren't out there needing 10 players, so you didn't see them super active. But there were, one or two that they probably really liked and they just didn't get. But, everybody's going to do it differently. And certainly for a school like UCF, you hope that you find some diamond in the roughs, and hopefully you win a couple of key battles and then fend off others and beat Florida on a guy or two, and then finish out the rest of it or focus on the portal. But they're shaping up to be pretty stout, and curious to see sort of the path that's laid in front of them in terms of that first Big 12 season and what they're eyeing. Maybe they are going to Norman, or maybe they are hosting Oklahoma. That would obviously be huge for that school to bring in OU or Texas or something along those lines. So I think we're all waiting to see what that schedule is going to look like. But good that UCF had a nice day.
Speaking of Oklahoma, that's coming up next. Joshua Quiston, Soonerscoop.com, joins us. This is 365 Sports.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance, and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com, or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties or time with the family, with various specials available while supplies last in store or ordering by phone, including 8 to 10 pound half spiral hams at $4.15 a pound, 12-pound pit hams at $4.35 a pound, 8 to 22 pound bone-in hams for $3.40 a pound, 14 to 16 pound whole raw turkeys at $2.85 a pound, and $4.80 a pound for 9 to 12 pound whole smoked turkeys, 6 to 8 pound mini pit hams for $5.99 a pound. Limit 4 of each item per customer. Call in advance to ensure availability, or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Waco Custom Marketplace, your full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. Yeah, shoot us a text if you have any questions on any of these guys coming up. But Josh Requeston, SoonerScoop.com, joins us now. Longtime guest, going back a couple of different talk shows with Josh Requeston. Josh, it was a rocky year for the Sooners on the field. And, starting with Lincoln Riley leaving last year and Brent Venables and everything that's happened, how do you feel they responded to that today on signing day?
Well, it's an interesting thing because if you want to look over what has happened since Brent Venables arrived all the way to today, you feel pretty good about it as far as recruiting goes. Going to be a top 10 class by some measurements, top 6, top 7. It's a good group. There's no doubt. And I think the thing that you look at is you say, well, this group, for all the Lincoln Riley left and all the problems they were going to have, they still landed the 5-star quarterback that, Oklahoma had kind of just become synonymous with, but at the same time landed one of the best defensive classes they've landed in, 10 or 15 years. So that's a great start. Today itself didn't go all that well, with Oklahoma missing out on both Peyton Bowen and Tassili Akana. And in Akana's case, not only did you lose him, you lost him to Texas. So it's a little bit of a rough signing day for Oklahoma.
Josh, there's obviously a difference in the way I would say Venables approaches it as opposed to previous coaches, but with the SEC stuff lingering, looming, however you want to phrase it, upcoming sooner than probably 2024, 25 or 2024 looking like when it was going to start, I should say. Do you see a difference in their recruiting as far as the trenches or anything along those lines?
Well, defensively, I definitely do. They landed a guy in PJ Atabare, one of the best defensive ends in the country, All-American, all the stuff that you're looking for. Have a couple other guys in the defensive line class that are good, solid players that I think probably wouldn't be part of this class under the previous regime. So I do see positive signs. They clearly, missing out on David Hicks out of Houston was a really tough loss. I mentioned Tassili Akana, losing Colton Vosick, although that one, you just kind of understand. That's a Texas kid. There was a lot of, I think it was more surprising you ever had a real chance with him than the fact that they lost him. So I do think you're seeing good things offensively. It's still Bill Bedenbaugh. He's still doing all the stuff he does. And I think they put together another good offensive line class with, one of the headliners being a borderline 5-star guy. So they have good pieces up front, and there's no question. It is a different philosophy where the line of scrimmage is what Brent Venables spends most of his time thinking about. There's no question.
Jackson Arnold, the 5-star QB commit, that's the one of the other diamonds of the class. Josh, this was, I'm sure, a guy that had to fight off a long time, but They didn't get bad news this morning that Oregon had stolen their guy. So how do they feel about him coming in? And given, of course, their quarterback depth right now behind Dylan Gabriel, how quickly could this guy see some significant playing time, given that Dylan Gabriel took some bumps and bruises last year?
I think it's interesting from both sides of that quarterback room, because if you look at it from Jackson Arnold's side, the expectation is he's going to take over the reins in 2024. So Oklahoma's going to want to get him snaps. They're going to want to, whether it's building in some packages for him or he can run some things he's comfortable with, and let that kind of expand as the year goes on, or just really letting him truly compete, which, I mean, they will. There's no question. He's too talented not to be given a legitimate shot. But, I think it's funny, OU fans kind of have this image that Dylan Gabriel's not very good. And I'm like, I think that's more to do with what you've become accustomed to. I think Oklahoma fans assume every quarterback should be a Heisman Trophy candidate or they're not good enough. And I think Dylan Gabriel, for the most part of last year, was a winning level quarterback. So I think they'll be patient. What I do think is interesting is having a guy like Jackson Arnold that I think Oklahoma by mid-season is going to feel comfortable. If he's got to come in and play a half or something, they're going to feel okay. What does that allow them to do with Dylan Gabriel? Do they get a little more run heavy with him in the offense? Because that's something Jeff Levy loved to do at Ole Miss with Matt Corral. Can they incorporate that a little bit more, and does that open up some things for this offense?
So the other 5-star on the defensive side of the ball, I'm probably going to butcher his name, but Adepoju Adebawore out of Kansas City, Missouri, dipping into very familiar territory there in Missouri. But what was kind of the background, the story here to getting a coveted 5-star edge rusher?
Well, and that's the thing you see. Brent Venables, with all of, it's a change of where your focus is. With Lincoln Riley, there was so much Southern California and just really West Coast in general, where he really went out and dipped his toe and had a lot of success out there. And obviously it worked out pretty well for him on a couple of fronts. But with Brent, there's always been, he's a Kansas guy. I mean, he's very familiar with Kansas City, St. Louis, kind of recruiting that whole corridor. And I think that is what you saw here. They got in on PJ. And to make it simple, I go with PJ instead of works. just for brevity's sake. But he is a guy that was like a 3-star at the time they offered him. Wasn't well known, had some good offers. His older brother actually is at Northwestern and just entered the NFL draft and is probably a second, third round guy. So, I mean, there's some pedigree there to say that, okay, this guy's going to come along. But he really didn't even play defensive end until his junior year of high school. His coaches kept kind of putting him at tight end and letting him move around. Well, he goes, I think he had 18 sacks as a junior or something. I mean, they kind of figured, this guy's really good and he's special. Came back this year, I think ended up with like 40 tackles for loss as a senior, some crazy number like that. And, Oklahoma, like I said, he committed in early summer and then just kind of watched his stock continue to elevate as people got more familiar with him, saw his tape, and he's the prototype. I mean, he's 6'4.5", 230 pounds, runs extremely well. And I think what's special about him is his change of direction. He really is a guy that should be an elite pass rusher in fairly short order.
You mentioned the focus of Lincoln Riley on the West Coast. Brent Venables and staff has 6 kids in this class from Florida. Is that the SEC influence there a little bit too?
Absolutely. I mean, everybody's familiar with all the work Clemson did in Florida, going back to like Sammy Watkins, C.J. Spiller, some great players at Clemson that came from the state of Florida. Brent Venables was very open. From the day he got there, they were going to work the Southeast. They were going to go compete with all the big boys down there. And I think they did an outstanding job. They're obviously fighting a little bit with their hands tied behind their back, being a school a little farther that's not currently part of the SEC, and is certainly not a school that these kids associate as of yet with the SEC. So I think they had to work a little bit uphill, but a couple of the guys they got in state, Lewis Carter, namely, is a guy that I'm just a huge fan of. Really kind of a diverse talent, could be a linebacker, could be a safety. He's kind of one of those hybrid guys that we see more and more of in college football these days. But I just think he has a world of ability. And if there was one guy in this class that I was going to say, I would bet my last dollar he is a good college football player, Lewis Carter would kind of be that guy. I really like all of his mentality. He kind of has some leadership skills. So I do. I like what they've done in Florida. Derek LeBlanc was a big win, guy they were recruiting at Clemson. So anytime you're able to go into Florida and land guys that they wanted at Clemson, that's a really good starting place for Oklahoma and where they're at right now.
Josh, looking at the transfer part of this class, because that's now like the norm is the transfer aspect of everything. They got a huge win with Dasan McCullough coming over from Indiana. That was widely celebrated. Jacob Lacey, another big get. And then the kind of fun story of Austin Stogner returning to where it started. But how big of a kind of a shake did you feel with the McCullough news and how coveted he was?
Oh, I think that was, honestly, one of the savvier things I've seen Oklahoma do, because they started recruiting his younger brother, Day, who at the time was a Cincinnati commitment, and in the class of 2023. And obviously he signed as well today. So they started recruiting him about 6 weeks ago. It felt kind of fruitless. Like, what are you going to do here? But then Luke Fickell goes to Wisconsin. The door just swings wide open. And then all of a sudden, Dasan's in the portal from Indiana. And so it just kind of worked out really naturally and really well for Oklahoma. But he's a day one starter. I mean, he really is that kind of guy. And talking to some people around the program, there are comparisons made to Isaiah Simmons. Like, they think he is that kind of impact guy, the former Butkus winner at Clemson. So they have a big belief. Now, he's a different kind of player, but they just see that kind of level of impact because he can rush off the edge. They can drop him into coverage. He can work against tight ends. There's just a lot they like there, and I would expect him to be a guy that's nearly impossible for OU to keep off the field.
Josh, do you feel like their issues on defense were talent or just adjusting to Brent Venables' scheme?
A little bit of both. And I think the biggest talent hurdle was at defensive line. They just don't have the people there. And I know people will say, maybe Lincoln Riley wasn't recruiting well, but it's not just that. And because the previous year, Oklahoma had multiple guys going to the NFL draft. I think 4 out of that front 7 were drafted the year before. So some of it was just natural turnover that was going to happen. And I think Oklahoma kind of struggled to replace that. Had a lot of young guys that they liked. They lost a couple of guys in what was going to be a very good recruiting class, a couple of top 100 type young defensive linemen that they had thought they could add to the roster and could kind of work their way into the rotation. Those guys went to Michigan, went to Texas A&M, and they just kind of missed out. So I think they just kind of had to have a hodgepodge last year. They struggled to create pressure without blitzing, and obviously when you blitz, you leave people in man coverage in the back. So I think they just fell into some traps and some trouble. Brent Venables didn't forget how to coach defense when he left Clemson, South Carolina. So I think it will get better, and I think there's a lot of talent in the back 7, but they still have to figure out that front 7. The front 4.
So would that be, if I ask you the question of where do they look now as they sort of like regroup after signing day number 1, is that where you're eyeing as far as filling in pieces for the rest of the roster?
To me, that's the biggest thing because I think, they have a needed receiver, which it looks like they're in pretty good shape to do some work in the portal. A guy named Trey Harris out of Louisiana Tech. I think they're in very good shape there. Maybe Caden Prather from West Virginia. There are some pieces that I think they're going to land that will help them at receiver. Defensive line, if they can find a guy to help create some pressure, and I don't know if he's got to be a slightly undersized guy because we all know the deal. There's not many of those guys in the portal because if they wouldn't go to the portal. Guys like that either stay where they are, sign big NIL deals, or they go to the NFL draft. I mean, there's really no reason to go to the portal if you're that kind of difference maker at that position. So we will see what comes of it. But like I said, I think that's the difference between Oklahoma really making a step next year and just kind of improving within Brent Venables' defense.
Josh, thank you so much for hopping on today. Enjoy the holidays, and always great to talk to you.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas, guys. Enjoy it.
Thanks, Josh. Joshua Quiston, Soonerscoop.com, with us here on 365 Sports. And Craig, again, how do you feel about how they did today as an Oklahoma enthusiast?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to get Kana there a few minutes ago, and especially as he mentioned losing to Texas. That's kind of a double whammy there, is to lose the guy and then lose him to a team you're going to be playing every year, and your arch rival. But I think I'm not going to complain about a top 10 recruiting class after the year they just had, especially. So I think you're in a better spot than most as far as having your quarterback back. You had kind of a mulligan in some ways because of the first year of, Venable's tenure. But there's certainly a feeling of like they've got to be better next year. There's no doubts about that. And I think that you see the massive changeover in the roster, not just from the signings today, but the guys who, already hit the portal. I think that they're doing a good job of bringing in, some talented players and finding and filling the right spots up, as far as getting those guys to actually execute on the field. I mean, we'll see how that goes, but I think Brent Venables and his staff are pretty good coaches, so I'm not too worried about that. Overall, yeah, I mean, it's a top 10 freaking class. I mean, there's 100 schools that would kill to have that. So Jackson Arnold's the crown jewel, obviously, and he's going to be an all-important piece, but they've locked him down and locked down some other pretty good guys as well. So I think everybody involved probably feels pretty good. Could have been better, but could have been so much worse than it was. I mean, they hit on a lot of good things.
All right, speaking of the Longhorns, they're coming up next. Jeff Howe, Horns 24/7, joins us next. This is 365 Sports.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Did you know Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is open to the public? Next time you're in town for a Baylor athletic event or you're in town for tourism, take advantage of their day passes for $10 a piece or the weekend for $30. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes, including indoor cycling and yoga, boot camp, and bar. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines, and a spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alec Bach, where you will be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, kids club, 16 tennis courts and 8 pickleball courts, and youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons available. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit wacotennis.com or visit them next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. But when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Jeff Howe joins us in just a second, but our good friend Ted Teague at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat just told us he's got 3 tickets around the 45-yard line for tomorrow's Armed Forces Bowl, Baylor and Air Force. First person to go to the dealership and mention it and ask for Ted will get the tickets. No hassle, anything like that. Just go in, ask for Ted Teague, say you heard it on Sikkim 365 Sports that you had 3 tickets to the bowl game, and they are yours. So thanks to Ted Teague for doing that. So if you'd like to go to the bowl game, make sure you bundle up because it's going to be frigid there, but he's got 3 tickets for you. Our good friend Jeff Howe, Horns 24/7, joins us now. And Jeff, I know that the story since 2005 has been turning it into something, but I would say that today, did the Longhorns get any bad news? I mean, Tony Grimes is transferring there. They seem to have gotten pretty much almost everybody they wanted today.
Yeah, I mean, the big surprise, and not really a surprise, Paul, because Texas had been recruiting Gavin Holmes, the corner from Wake Forest. He visited this last weekend. I think that was a matter of time. I didn't expect it to happen this quick, but getting him was nice. They get Cecilia Kana, the edge defender who played his high school ball in Utah. He's from Hawaii. They get him today. A really close battle with Oklahoma. That seemed like it was trending toward Oklahoma for a really long time. And Texas was able to get him at the end. I don't think there's any bit of that. And I think the other big one today was Derek Williams, the safety out of Louisiana. There was some debate. Was he going to sign early? Was he going to wait until February and take some visits in January? But he signed today. The only downer was DeAndre Moore, the 4-star wide receiver out of St. John Bosco in California. All signs looked like he was going to not sign with Louisville and sign with Texas, but he didn't sign anywhere today. So when that's the worst thing that happened to you on signing day, Texas had a pretty good day.
So, Jeff, after all of the buzz and the buildup and the talk and all that, and there's still plenty of that more to come, what's it like to see Arch Manning officially, putting pen to paper?
Yeah, it's interesting, Craig, just to hear Sark finally talk about it today. We just wrapped up the press conference about 25, 30 minutes ago. And just to hear him talk about, hey, if you take away the name, he's still an elite quarterback prospect with elite tools, an elite work ethic, that family, they're just great people. So, it's not, Craig, the surreal moment that it was when he committed. And not that it was a surprise that he picked Texas, but even Sark said it in the press conference today, made the decision a little earlier than even the staff was planning, but Sark kind of joked, hey, we took the commitment anyway. Not like you're going to tell Arch Manning no. But no, now the focus quickly turns to it. Sark got asked a couple questions about it. Does Arch redshirt? What does this mean for Malik Murphy? How does the quarterback room look going forward? So really, Craig, this was kind of the last step in that process, and I think already Texas fans are just kind of looking forward to what's next for Arch and for this quarterback room going forward when he gets here in a couple of weeks.
So, I mean, we got the news, I guess it was yesterday, about Ajayi Hall, and then that's a transfer that didn't work out for them. But, that Bijan Robinson's leaving. How quickly do they expect some of the kids from this class to start to contribute because of some of the losses they will have, particularly on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, the good thing, Paul, is that I think 13 of these guys are mid-year guys. Cedric Baxter at running back is going to be one of those guys that'll be on campus in January, so he'll have a chance to go through spring ball and get some things done. Yeah, I think what's interesting, too, Sark mentioned this, and then you can really look at it, the linebacker position, whether it's Anthony Hill, Samaje Varela to North Crowley, Darian Gillette at TIG, the linebacker class that they and Leon Lafau out of the state of Hawaii. I think all 4 of those guys can come in and play right away. You know, when you talk about offense ball, I think Jonte Cook and Ryan Niblett are definitely going to have a chance to come in and compete for playing time right away, just because the depth isn't quite what they would like it to be. Like you said, a Jai Hall didn't really get anything out of a Jai Hall. Tariq Milton was. They didn't really need Tariq Milton. He was kind of an insurance policy for Jordan Whittington, and Whittington stayed healthy the whole year. And by the way, Whittington still has a decision to make on whether he's going to come back next year. And then you just got a whole host of young guys, whether it's Brennan Thompson and Savion Red. Casey King was a redshirt freshman this year. So I think wide receiver, running back are really the two positions where you're going to see a couple of freshmen on offense have a chance to make an impact. And I think if you're a back seven defender, a linebacker, safety, corner, nickel in this class, you're going to have a chance to come in and compete for a depth chart spot.
So, Jeff, hearing you mention some of the depth that they have, the signing class, how highly heralded it is. I mean, yes, they're losing guys like Bijan to the NFL, but that'll come in handy as far as, recruiting and all of the buzz they'll get from, his build up into being a first-round pick here in a few months. But just how good, and I know you got to be kind of careful because things can change quickly, but how well are they set up and how good do people feel about the direction that Sark's got this program at the moment?
Yeah, Craig, I asked Sark about that today because I went back and was just kind of culling through the archives while I was waiting for COVID, because really there was nothing else to do except kind of cull through stuff and kind of go rabbit holing. But I went back to a comment Sark made the week of the Louisiana game last year, so it's 5 days before his first game, and he was talking about the roster. He said it's a talented roster. He said, is it built the way I would build it? No, but that's okay. That just means you've got to go recruit. And I think what they've done, Craig, is they've really stacked two classes now on top of each other that makes sense. And when I say that, last year it was all about the line of scrimmage. They talked a lot about they didn't like their size, their depth on either line of scrimmage, and they loaded up on high school offensive linemen and high school defensive linemen. This year it was about being more deliberate at the skill positions in terms of, they didn't like their depth at linebacker. They didn't like their depth at wide receiver. They knew they needed to add a body at running back. They went to the state of Louisiana and got a kid in Derek Williams, who Sark thinks is the best defensive player in that state. And he said the first time he popped the film on, he thought that kid had a chance to be a first-round draft pick down the road. So I think that's where it's accurate. I think Texas fans, they kind of see the method to the madness, so to say. When Sark talked about, hey, we want to be a great developmental program and we want to build this roster the right way, I think kind of laying that foundation with the offensive and defensive line classes last year, now you stack it on top of guys that are proven commodities at the high school level, not just guys that are good athletes, but guys that won state championships, that played in high leverage games, that were really productive players. Now you add that on top of what you did last year, and now you can really see this roster starting to come together. Like I think in the day and age of the portal and one-time transfer, you're constantly going to need to be replenishing your roster. And now for college staffs, you really do look at it. It is a year-to-year proposition, almost like an NFL front office would look at building a roster. But I think for now, compared to when Sark got here to where it is now, I think this roster has this program in much better condition to compete, not just down the road, but in the immediate future with the pieces they've added and how they've added.
Jeff, they've got two guys from the portal right now. How deep do you expect them to go in this season?
Yeah, Sark said that realistically, maybe 3 or 4 more. I think wide receiver is a position where they could look to add a body. Maybe, I think on the offensive line and then the defensive line, you're always looking for, hey, if there's an impact player that just falls in your lap. And I would throw, Texas classifies the edge guys as outside linebackers, but I would throw edge in there too. If there's just a kind of a best player available, you kind of got to get him, guys that can protect the quarterback and get after the quarterback. That's what you're always looking for. If they answer the need at corner with Gavin Holmes, I think safety is a position where maybe they look to add a guy again if it's like that. But that's the key though. And I start today about, with these 2 uncapped years where the NCAA waived the initial counter limit. He said, hey, they just weren't going to take a bunch of guys to take them and then figure it out later. They've set it up this way to where they really wanted the early signing period to be about taking care of your high school guys and knowing that you're not only going to have attrition between now and when the portal closes in January, but then after spring ball, you're going to have attrition. Now you can really be deliberate and really be choosy and say, okay, post spring, we know we're going to have a need. We need to go get a receiver. Let's go ahead and start looking at the transfer portal for receivers, so that way you can be ready to go when those guys enter. So I think that's kind of their plan, is just 3 to 4 more. I think, like I said, I think receiver, maybe offensive or defensive line. I mean, safety, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe corner was a position that they looked at in the portal too.
Of the 4 or 5 stars, I mean, we know Arch isn't going to come in and start right away, but of Anthony Hill, Cedric Baxter, and Jonte Cook, who do you think has the biggest impact the quickest?
I think Cedric Baxter's going to have a chance to be that guy, Craig. I mean, Jonathan Brooks, though, he's getting a lot of opportunities now in bowl practices with, Bijan Robinson already announcing that he's opting out of the bowl game, and then Roschon Johnson hasn't announced anything, but we're expecting him to announce that he's not going to play in the bowl game. So it's been a lot of Jonathan Brooks in bowl practices, but Cedric Baxter, Starkey even talked about it today, just a big physical runner with straight line speed that they really like. So he's going to obviously have a chance to come and play. I think Anthony Hill too. I mean, I know, off-ball linebacker is one of those positions, and it's really tough to find those guys that play it at the high school level to where the skill set and the speed can translate and the instinctiveness can translate to the college level. Typically, you're looking at like converting safeties, or you convert a nickel guy or a high school running back. But they got a guy in Anthony Hill that could come in and compete for a starting spot right away. I mean, you think about, Texas had guys, Malik Jefferson was one of those guys that came in and played right away. I think Anthony Hill is that type of guy. And then like I said, Jonte Cook got a chance to put his stuff in the receiver rotation right off the bat. Outside of Xavier Worthy and Jordan Whittington, if he comes back, you don't have that many proven commodities. You're going to get Isaiah Mayer back at some point from the knee injury, but other than that, it's wide open for other spots in that wide receiver rotation.
Jeff, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. I know this is not football related, but have you guys heard anything about Chris Beard and what the timetable is there?
No, Paul. It's mom is the word right now. So I think things are just kind of going through a process right now, and not much movement. I wouldn't expect a resolution anytime soon. So anybody that's kind of sitting on pins and needles or holding their breath waiting for something to go down, I would exhale and just be patient on that. That could take a while to play out.
How much of a I mean, obviously a surprise. I think that goes without saying, but just how kind of, I don't even know what the right word is, just gobsmacked were people once that news hit?
I mean, it seemed, again, I was sick the day it happened, but it almost felt like a fever dream. Like, was this real? Like, is this legit? And then, you do the legwork and find out that it is. Obviously that situation is unsavory, and there's no way to sugarcoat that. It's not a good look. But the people that I think about in that deal are the people that had no direct involvement in it that are now impacted. You talk about the assistant coaches, the players, support staff, video people, trainers, equipment guys, people that put their faith in Chris Beard that now, rightfully so, don't know what their future is at Texas. It's just uncertain right now. So, Craig, it's just, to go from Saturday where you have a game against Pine Bluff and it's a routine win to, less than 48 hours later, not knowing if your basketball coach is going to be your basketball coach. Oh, by the way, you had to turn around and play a game that night. Yeah, it was just, it was one of the more bizarre days I've had covering Texas. And trust me, in the last 10 or so years, there's been a lot of bizarre days.
Jeff Howell, horns247.com. Jeff, glad you're on the mend.
Yeah. Glad you're covering, hopefully, from COVID. We've all had it at this point, but it's not fun.
No, it wasn't. I don't recommend it for a weight loss plan or anything else. But yeah, it's good to. Actually, the worst part was I lost my voice for a couple of days, so I apologize if I still sound a little bit raspy, still trying to get the voice back. But feeling better, and it's always good to talk to you guys.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you as well.
Yeah.
All right. So, Jeff Howell, horns247.com. Yeah, Craig, well, I had to add, we've been talking about it for over a week now but that's the most clarity we've gotten on it. It's just, we're just going to have to sit and wait and marinate on it.
And I'm right with him on how it affects people. I mean, kind of tried to relay that same thing, even though the stories aren't exactly the same, years ago with certain Baylor guys who were getting just absolutely eviscerated in the public, no doing of their own, but just because of a coach or because of a reporter or whatever. And we weren't heard as politely as we just heard out Jeff put it that way. And yet those guys that we were, trying to, I guess, not like ever individually, but it's in terms of like, yes, there's this part of it and there's this part of it, but like, hey, there's this whole team and this whole group of guys that are really good guys. No, they're rapists. And it was like, it was all for naught. And especially coming from the fan base that he covers, which, is kind of part of the deal, but it's just funny now to like hear, well, just let things play out, man, and let them play out. And it's like, what was this whole play it out thing? Because we didn't do that earlier. Well, it's just a police report. You mean like Sean Oakman's police report? Remember how we blew that up? That was on Outside the Lines. That was on ESPN. That was all over. Sean Oakman guilty before even getting a chance to speak. And, then turns out after years and trials and all that, he's finally doing his thing and winning Grey Cups in Canada, but his NFL dreams were totally dashed. So, I mean, I'm sympathetic to the people who had nothing to do with anything really, or get caught up in the S-storm of it all. And fortunately for Texas, it's all gone quiet, and they're able to, say, like, let it play out, and that's the way it's going to go. And fortunately for them, it's not like moving into like it didn't begin with like a bunch of people involved. It was just a Chris Beard thing, and so that's why it's different, and that's why I know it's different. But yeah, the whole it's just a police report that didn't fly years ago, and the whole let it play out. That didn't fly, and the whole they're not saying anything because there's nothing to say. That didn't fly. So there's a lot of people that are talking out of both. Not him, not Jeff. Jeff's good people, but there are a lot of people that are on that side of the fence that are talking out of both sides of their mouths for sure.
There's a lot of expecting us here in Waco to be like Woodward and Bernstein on it. We're waiting for all the same things that you are. Like
we had more hearsay than this.
Yeah, I know. Like
that was 95% hearsay.
Yeah.
I mean, up until the Oakman thing, and so this was like pretty much just this was factual and about one person right out of the gates. And again, not comparing the situations, but comparing the kind of the sort of response to the response of, like, I don't blame him. Like, what do you say? You can only talk about Chris Beard and what you alleged, or believe you think happened based on what was alleged and all that. So I totally understand that. My point more is just like, it's just very interesting that some people have like, well, I think this says everything that it needs to say. Well, that's not what you were saying 5 years ago. So I just, that's easy to identify the people like that. And Jeff's certainly not one of them. I know that's not fun to cover stories like that. And so hopefully it works out the way that it needs to for all of the folks involved, especially for, the people that deserve for it to work out a certain kind of way. I hope it does. And I can understand and be sympathetic to the parties and to the fact that it is a process and it's going to need some time to play out. But that wasn't the case when the shoe was on the other foot.
Yeah, there are some other stories I'd like to get to, like outside of the recruiting today, and we'll have a little bit of time between Olin Buchanan and John Machota. But I do want to mention beforehand, and Q and I did get a chance to talk to him in 2020 in Miami. I don't know if did you come with us? Everybody kind of came staggered, but in that Super Bowl. But Franco Harris passed away, a legend among legends in the NFL. He is the symbol of the Pittsburgh Steelers and will always be. Passed away, and that's a huge story in football today that we lost the great Franco Harris. He of the one of the craziest plays, if not the craziest play in NFL history, in the Immaculate Reception. Man, I just thinking about that, 72 years old and died, but Franco Harris, Penn State, then the Steelers, just a legend. And there's a statue of him in the Pittsburgh airport, which I believe one day that there will be a statue of him somewhere in Pittsburgh because he is beloved in that city and many other places.
Yeah, I mean, a little out of my time. I mean, I know him for being a Hall of Famer, but obviously it was too young to appreciate him as a player outside of like NFL films and all of that. But I mean, if there's not already a statue of him somewhere in Pittsburgh, I would imagine there will be soon enough. And it's always sad to hear news like that. I can't help but notice as people around me get older, the dwelling on the death of people becomes like this focus. You know what I mean? Like I just feel like I hear it so much more often now than I did like 5 years ago. And I know when you hear about like people in their 70s and that's all they talk about, like it's understandable. But yeah, like that's one that for a certain fan base and certain age group especially, that was a dude now. And that's unfortunate to hear about his passing. And We had Mike Leach last week, and there's probably some that I'm already forgetting, but yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yep. When we come back, let's talk TCU. Jeremy Clark, Horned Frog Blitz. They have done pretty well in the portal the last few days, and did well in recruiting as well. But the portal is really the story when it comes to TCU right now. Jeremy Clark joins us next. This is 365 Sports.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks this holiday season, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco, because we have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will put you in a new vehicle and driving away with confidence. Save big during the Big Finish sales event this month on the new 2022 Chrysler 300 Touring L with total values up to $4,000, plus $500 bonus cash to first responders. Hurry in and wrap up some of the best deals of the year at Allen Samuels in Waco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
1, 2. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's Tasty Oak Smoked Barbecue.
Next in line.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, Jeremy Clark, Horned Frog Blitz joins us now. And Jeremy, it's been a heck of a couple weeks for TCU. Going back to Max Duggan and the Heisman Trophy runner-up. I know that it didn't come out in the Big 12 title game like they like, but transfer portal especially, it looks like they have used that momentum really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at who they're getting, I mean, they're getting guys from Alabama, Florida. I mean, you get a guy like Tommy Brockemeyer, who was a 5-star back in the 21 class, and he was actually the number 6 overall kid in the nation. So that was huge for TCU to land him, get him back home to Fort Worth, and you get JoJo Earl, kid out of Aledo that also is kind of a whirlwind recruitment out of high school, first committed to LSU, then went to Alabama, and obviously spent a couple years down in Alabama, is coming back home. Aledo is right down the road from Fort Worth, so you get those guys coming back home, and that's one thing that Sonny Dykes has really done well, even back at SMU. They always had an itch to get some of those guys that are DFW kids to come back and play for SMU when they were over there for the Mustangs, and now that they're at TCU, they're getting that same kind of result. And it's going to be funny. There's only been one player hit the portal for TCU right now. I expect that to fully change once the playoffs are over. And, in college football, attrition does happen. I expect the numbers to kind of fluctuate a little bit more, but I don't think they're anywhere close to being done as far as the transfer portal goes.
Jeremy, it seems like they're taking good advantage of all the extra exposure. I mean, just how valuable has that been? And just, I mean, in general, what kind of a ride has the last few months been in terms of this football program and what they've accomplished?
I mean, I've been around them since 2005. I mean, you're talking to a guy that started with Rivals back in the day, and, I've never experienced anything like this. I mean, it's to see the change so quickly. I mean, you're talking about a program that was 5-7 last year. They were getting clobbered by some teams by 3 or 4 scores, and to just talk about them being in the conversation in the college football playoff with a chance to play for a national championship. We talked to Sonny Dykes about that a few weeks ago. What's that mean to you? What's that mean to you in recruiting? And it's a game changer. And I think it really is. I think we've really seen what happens when you have a program that has a successful season. You've got a lot of publicity around not only the season that they're having. Obviously, they're known to come back in these games. Everyone was kind of rooting for them, even if you're not a TCU fan. If you're just a college football fan in general, people started watching TCU football just to see what was going to happen. And then the big story of the year started to become Max Duggan and what he's been able to accomplish, being the Davey O'Brien Award winner, Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award winner, and then finishing second in the Heisman Trophy. I mean, you talk about all those things in just 1 year. And a year ago, TCU was trying to figure out how in the world do we replace a guy that built this program. You go to Fort Worth and see Amon Carter Stadium, or the fact that TCU's even in the Big 12, a lot of that has to do with Gary Patterson. So you had a lot of fans trying to figure out, man, is Sonny Dykes the right guy? Is he going to be able to replace Patterson? And so many questions evolving around that. But now you look at a year later, there's just no one could have predicted really where TCU is right now, except maybe if you got purple sunglasses at home and you bleed purple, or you're one of those players or coaches around the program. I don't think anyone really expected this to happen so quickly.
Jeremy, I did notice that, with Max Duggan leaving, that they do have a spot open at quarterback. I know that Chandler Morris they feel good about him stepping in. I mean, considering he won the job in the fall camp anyway before he got hurt, but they didn't take a quarterback yet in this class. Do you expect that to change over the next couple months?
Yeah, and we talked to Sonny about that today at the signing day presser, and they're going to look at some quarterbacks. They're not going to look for anyone. I know the big question is, are they going to look for a guy that's going to come in and be the starter? I don't see that happening at all. Like you mentioned, Chandler is a very good quarterback. He won the starting job for a reason. I mean, he was great in fall camp. He was great in spring camp. So they're really comfortable with what Chandler Morris brings to the table. And unfortunately for him, he was injured against Colorado, and we all got to see the season Max Duggan had. But, as far as just going out and getting one of these big name quarterbacks, I don't expect them to do that. And I know a lot of people mentioned Hudson Card and some other guys out there. I don't foresee them going after guys like that. I see them maybe if they have someone leave other than Chandler Morris, they've got Sam Jackson still there. They've got Josh Hoover that's still there. They've only got 3 scholarship quarterbacks, so I don't see a lot of turnover in that quarterback room. But if they do bring in a guy, I don't expect it to be a guy that's going to come in and compete with Chandler Morris for the starting job right away.
Who do you think were the one or two most important groups in this, or one or two most important gets in this class?
Well, I think you got to start at the top with Marcus Dill, the 4-star out of Garland, Naaman Forest. I mean, if you look at his recruitment early in the process, no one was really giving TCU a chance. And it was kind of funny when I had a chance to talk to him in January. He had never been on campus before, and he was just simply blown away with everything that he saw at TCU from the facilities. And he even mentioned the fact I didn't know something this nice was so close to home. And so he has a very close connection with his family. His dad's obviously a coach at Naaman Forest. And you're talking about a guy, and you guys being around Baylor, you guys know through the years how TCU and Baylor have started to compete more and more with these so-called blue blood programs that they're recruiting against. And they didn't beat a SMU or a North Texas or a UTEP. And I'm not talking bad about those programs, but I mean, you got to look at who they're competing against now. TCU beat out Texas and Georgia for this guy. You're talking about beating out the national champion Georgia Bulldogs for a recruit. That says something. So that was a huge gift for them defensively. I think he fits what Joe Gillespie does as a defensive coordinator perfectly. He's 6'4", 290. He's probably about 6'5", 290. They'll play him at nose, and he'll be a perfect fit for that defense. But offensively, I've got to go with Cordell Russell. I love that kid's game. I've known Cordell ever since he was a freshman in high school, and he's just progressively got better and better each year. He's right around 6'3", 6'4" now, weighs about 205, and the kid probably has about a 42-inch vertical. And the big thing about him is he's going to be an early enrollee. He'll be on campus in January, get a chance to be around Kaz Kazadi and that strength and conditioning program, which we've all seen from Waco all the way to Fort Worth, how much of a good job that he does preparing these kids. But he'll have a chance to go through the off-season training and get the nutrition that they give around at TCU and go through spring ball. And I really think that he's going to be a kid that's going to contribute early on, especially with them likely losing Quentin Johnston to the NFL draft. But Sonny Dykes was really high on him today and expects him to be one of those guys that plays early.
Who's the diamond in the rough in this class? I mean, it's a good class, so it's hard to say that. I mean, when your lowest rated guy is a 3-star that's in, it's pretty darn good. But who is the diamond in the rough in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, this is a class that has 10 4-stars in it right now. So I think the guy that really no one has talked about a lot, just simply because he's not from Texas, is Max Carroll. He's out of Memphis, Tennessee. He's a 6'3", 215-pound kid. He played at Briarcrest Christian, and I asked him one time what position he played, and he said, "What positions do I not play?" I mean, the only position he really didn't play for them was on the offensive line. I mean, he's a guy that can line up at quarterback, running back, receiver, plays safety, plays linebacker. But at TCU, he's going to be a linebacker. And what I really love about this kid is if you look at what Joe Gillespie did at Tulsa, he took a Zaven Collins kid that was a 2-star quarterback and turned him into a first-round NFL linebacker. And when you talk about the type of ability that Max Carroll has, that same similarity comes about it. They start mentioning Zaven Collins and just the kind of athleticism he has. He's really never honed in on one position, but with him getting moved to linebacker once he gets to TCU, I think his body type, his speed, and his athleticism is really going to help him. I don't expect to see him play early on, really as a true freshman, since they've got basically all their linebackers coming back next year. But I think he's going to be a guy that will go through, get some good weight on him, get faster, and once he's a redshirt freshman, maybe redshirt sophomore, he's going to be a major contributor for them.
Was there ever, just curious, with Max Duggan making his NFL announcement, was there ever any thought, did he have any eligibility left?
He did. He did have a COVID year. And that was the big question because, Max, he's such a good story, and everyone knows the story. And he really cares about team first, and that's what Doc's talking about today, that he feels like Max made the decision as quickly as he can to help them because he knows it will help them once the time comes for them to look for a quarterback through the transfer portal. Because if Max is still walking around TCU around March or April when those guys are still trying to decide if they want to enter the draft or not, it would hurt TCU if they were trying to go out and get a transfer quarterback. So with him doing this now, it opens that up for them to start having those discussions with some of those transfer kids, and it lets Max move on and get him 100% honed in on the college football playoff and not having to worry about his future. So Max did a favor for himself, and he actually did a favor for TCU by announcing so early.
Jeremy, so your thoughts on Michigan? While we have you here, they're still a few days out here, 10 days from now, but the matchup and how you see this thing shaking out.
Quite honestly, when they started talking about the possibilities for a playoff, I always felt like Michigan might be the best matchup for TCU. And the reason why I say that, Michigan's big and athletic, but the great thing about it is TCU has been battle tested against teams that are similar to Michigan. They've played against the big guys like they have at Texas or Kansas State or at Baylor. They've played against great running teams like they have at Baylor and Texas. They've played against those quarterbacks that can not only throw but can run the football. They've played against good defensive teams like Kansas State and Baylor and Texas, teams that have 4- and 5-star talent. So as far as the matchup goes, I think TCU has fared well against similar teams this year. Now, I'm not saying any of those teams go out and beat Michigan. Michigan is a very good football team, but I really feel like the matchups from top to bottom might be as comparable as as TCU would hope making the playoffs. I don't think you could have said the same thing about it if they were facing Georgia or if they were facing Ohio State. So I think this matchup's going to be pretty good. TCU's actually going to have some rest. I mean, you're talking about a team that didn't have a bye week since September 17th. They played 11 straight weeks, and they were worn out by the end of the year. I mean, they're getting a chance to get healthy now. They will be 100% going into that game against Michigan. And I really feel like I'm not going to predict a win for them or anything like that, but I really feel that TCU's going to play a lot better than a lot of experts predict. I mean, I remember covering this team back in 2010 when everyone was talking about how Wisconsin was going to roll over TCU in the Rose Bowl, and we all saw how that ended up being for TCU. So I see that TCU's going to go out there and give it their all, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did pull off an upset win. I mean, it's just one of those. It's a crazy year. I mean, it is a crazy year for TCU. They've somehow gotten all those lucky bounces. They've gotten all the right plays at the right time, and I'm not one. I'm the guy that was sitting here thinking 6-6 and 8-4 was going to be a really good year for TCU this year. So anyone that doubts TCU at this point of the year, they haven't watched much college football.
Jeremy Clark, Horned Frog Blitz. Jeremy, thanks so much. Happy holidays. Thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it, guys.
Jeremy Clark, Horned Frog Blitz. Yeah, it's salad days in Fort Worth right now. You look at their recruiting, they're cleaning up the transfer portal based on the rankings of the guys, and we'll see if those guys fit in. Tommy Brockermeyer and JoJo Earle haven't really played all that much at Alabama, but they're highly thought of kids, and maybe they just don't fit there, and Sonny Dykes can make them work. Jack Beck or Besh at LSU played a little bit, Garrett, right?
He was a little bit. I'm interested to see what he can do there. I'm not like as high on the move but Jeremy mentioned Cordell Russell. I've had the opportunity to watch him. He is a breakout player. That's going to be a star to watch. So I'm glad that Jeremy brought him up. But Besh, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's one of those it's just a transfer, so everybody reacts like it's like every recruit commit.
I think so. I mean, it's one of those where you see you're getting a guy from a program like LSU, and I think anytime that you're a program who can get a guy from one of those schools, like a Power 5 at LSU. What was I saying? Like a blue blood, essentially.
A name brand.
Yeah, a name brand. Then I think you're going to get more smoke behind it. But I don't really expect much from this.
Yeah. When we come back, Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com. We're going to talk Kansas State. I'm starting to lose track. There's so much we're doing today and trying to throw a lot of different things at you. But he'll talk about K-State and how maybe their good season has helped them close or make them more attractive in the portal. This is 365 Sports.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
By the way, before we get to Tim Fitzgerald, Craig, Oregon has continued their flip fest. They flipped another kid from Notre Dame today. So that's 2 from Notre Dame and 1 from Baylor as Oregon continues their all-out assault on organized religion on National Signing Day.
No kidding. Yeah.
But they're just, I mean, Dan Lanning, I don't know if he's ever going to have another day as good as this one that he's ever had. I mean, he's starting here pretty high to the top, but a team that really closed the year fantastically, Kansas State. We've had Tim Fitzgerald on before. They're the Big 12 champs. They're playing in the Cotton Bowl. Tim, Chris Kleiman was, I don't want to say slow is not the word, but like a gradual build was what he was doing. How much has the last 2 months helped him hit the accelerator a little bit on what he's doing in Manhattan?
You know, they just kind of know what kind of kids they want. You know, maybe they're getting them at a higher degree. I know Avery Johnson, the quarterback, is certainly the best quarterback Kansas State signed in a very long time. But they're bringing in such quality young men, both on and off the field, and they kind of know what they're looking at now, what they want to, what's effective for them and their systems. but yeah, they had some nice wins here down the stretch with Asa Newsome, really good athlete that's going to play linebacker. Trey Spivey, a receiver out of Arizona, that'll be really good for K-State. So they did finish pretty strong coming down the stretch and got some guys that can help.
Feeling any bump from that Big 12 title, and I'm sure things are nice and rosy with that shiny new trophy there in Manhattan, or do you expect that will probably pay off more in the following class?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it'll be next year. They'll probably be able to get some more kids onto campus than they, have in the past. That's the thing Chris Kleiman always says. If you get them to Manhattan, you get them in for a game, and they it's 50,000 seats. How good can it be? And then they see what the atmosphere is really like. It really does impress recruits, and the atmosphere at Kansas State impresses families. So they feel like if they got them on campus, they've got a really good shot at it.
You mentioned Avery Johnson. You said the highest rated recruit they've ever had there at quarterback. He's got a nice little runway with Will Howard next year, going to be the starter. What do they expect from him early on, though, given the depth behind Will Howard?
Yeah, there are some guys. I mean, Jake Rubley, who was a 4-star quarterback, too. For most of the year, he was a higher-rated quarterback recruit, but I think we all recognize that Avery's just kind of special, and being a Kansas kid also helps with that. They've got Adrian Lara, a true freshman out of Arizona that they really like. And Will Howard technically has 2 years because of the COVID season. I don't know if he'll exercise both of those years or not, but he gives them a really good lead in to what could be a fun run with Avery or one of the other young quarterbacks. But Avery can sling it. He can run. He's got to get some body mass on him. He's awfully skinny. He's going to get pummeled at this level. I don't know if he can get Max Duggan tough, but he's got to get toughened up, a little seasoned for Big 12 football. But he'll get there. He comes at the start of the semester, so he'll be here for spring. And they do expect great things from him. But, bottom line with Avery, if you've ever seen an interview with him, he's just a great kid. They just absolutely love him. He's done a great job helping them recruit. Some of these guys at the end always cite Avery and the contact he had with them.
Tim, I know guys can move positions, but seems like safety was a big priority in this class.
Yeah, they brought in 3 transfer safeties in the last class. They just have to bolster that position with, more permanent guys because they pretty much play 3 safeties on the field at all times. Once in a while, they'll put a third linebacker out there in run situations, but they really like to have that, smaller, lighter defenses that are so effective that the Big 12 has kind of proven can really slow down offenses. Those days of those big, 3 linebackers are over. Even middle linebackers now are, maybe 230. So they just lean on those safeties an awful lot in their system, and they've done a really good job finding guys in the portal or JUCO or whatever it is. But they would like to just bring them up, through the system and develop those own players.
What do you expect them to see them do in the portal coming up, and what do they still have to do before the next signing day?
Well, they're up against their 85. In fact, I think there might be a couple over it. So they've only had 5 guys go into the portal, and none of those guys were really serious players for them. I think after the bowl game, we'll see some more guys go into the portal. It's just a reality. Everyone complains about the kids jumping into the portal. Well, the coaches don't mind the portal either for that reason. Sometimes you need to clear out some space for some guys. I think we'll see them try to get a running back out of the portal. They only signed 1 high school running back. Deuce Vaughn's still up in the air. He has not announced whether he's coming back or he's going to go, a year early to the draft. I think suspicion is he'll go, but there's also been a lot of talk about him staying. So I think they probably want to get one more seasoned guy out of the portal at running back, maybe a receiver, interior lineman, defensive lineman probably are the spots where they're most eager to find some guys.
The portal's a funny thing, Tim, because I found today just in a conversation, was talking about Baylor losing their big quarterback commit to Oregon, which a lot of people are losing commits today to Oregon. But while saying, what a bummer that is, meanwhile saying 2 seconds later, but they still need 6 guys to enter the portal to get down to the 85. It's just, we're so quick to kind of, talk about the guys that leave and then turn right around and hey, we need some guys to shed the roster spots to get some more guys, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it really is. And the COVID year adds to all of this tension. I think there's a couple guys, 2 or 3 guys that want to come back for sure for their 6th season. And at some point, a coach has to make a hard decision.
we've had a great career, but it's time to move on because we don't have room. So bumping up against that 85 is a real challenge right now for a lot of coaches.
Tim, the Cotton Bowl is actually setting up, given that most of the roster are going to be available for both teams of healthy players, to be one of the better bowl games. Are you kind of fired up that Alabama in particular, with, potentially the top 2 picks in the draft, decided not to opt out?
I've been around Bill Snyder so long that, and I know they've been to a press conference and said they're playing. I will believe it when I see it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This would be so Bill Snyder of Nick Saban to roll those guys out for a press conference and, oh, by the way, they don't play. But I hope they do. I would love to see them at full strength. I think it makes me a little bit more leery about the bets that I placed, expecting those guys to be gone. But I still am optimistic that K-State's playing some pretty good football. And I go back and look at that game against Alabama and Texas. I know it was eons ago. You can't really compare scores, but the fact that Texas played nose up with them, I think shows that there isn't that huge perceived gap around the nation between, every SEC program and everyone else. K-State's won 3 in a row now against the SEC going into this bowl game. So this is another huge opportunity, just an enormous opportunity, because this is the biggest brand in all of college football.
How much, looking back on it, did Will Howard change this season?
Amazing. It's absolutely incredible. They went and got Adrian Martinez because they just weren't sure Will Howard was ready. And there was some, the teammates believed in him, but he hadn't really shown it on the field. He'd shown it in practice, but hadn't put it out on the field. And then he gets pushed into duty at the TCU game down in Fort Worth and just throws it all over the field in the first half. I thought, okay, that's good. Maybe that's, an illusion here. Maybe he just had a nice night, but he continued to do it. And even though he didn't always, wasn't always perfect, he continued to show a great deal of confidence. He's willing to make tight window throws and do things that we had not seen from Will Howard. And Adrian Martinez will be healthy for the Sugar Bowl, and Will Howard will start the game. There's no doubt. I mean, Chris Kleiman flat out said at his press conference on Monday that Will's now the guy. He's earned that. They'll try to find a way to get Adrian involved in the game plan and out on the field at some point, but this is Will Howard's game at the Sugar Bowl.
Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com. Tim, thanks a lot. Happy holidays.
Thank you, boys. Great to talk to you.
All right. There you go, Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com. We're going to talk A&M next. Usually, Craig, you see like the conference championship bump or whatever that comes in high school recruiting the next year. I think with the portal being as open now, you see the portal affect it right away. But the high school recruiting is usually a year, because by the time that you've won a conference championship, most of your class you've already been talking to before you did that.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, it takes a little while. That's what's, disappointing, that you feel like, did Baylor do enough with the lead up that they had to get the payoff? And I think that they did to some extent with the class they signed. They signed a really good class. I'm sure some of that was some rub from last year, but it's not long lasting, and so you got to take advantage of it while you can. And yeah, I think K-State's in a really good spot where they should be able to benefit from that in a tremendous way. I don't think that they'll take some massive step back next year. So yeah, they're set up to really see a good payout with a strong finish and a good season next year. And Kleiman's got that thing moving in the right direction. So there's a lot to be excited about.
Just once again, before we go to break, if you're in Waco and you would like to go to the Armed Forces Bowl tomorrow, Ted Teague at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, he's got 3 tickets, 45-yard line tomorrow. If you want them, just go in, ask for Ted, tell him you like the tickets. There's no catch or hassle or anything. Just go in and he'll give you those tickets. So if you're here in Waco and want to go to that game tomorrow and have plenty of winter clothing, go on ahead over to Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, ask for Ted Teague, and he will hook you up. This is 365 Sports. Owen Buchanan, TexAgs.com is next.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties or time with the family, with various specials available while supplies last in store or ordering by phone. including 8 to 10 pound half spiral hams at $4.15 a pound, 12 pound pit hams at $4.35 a pound, 8 to 22 pound bone-in hams for $3.40 a pound, 14 to 16 pound whole raw turkeys at $2.85 a pound, and $4.80 a pound for 9 to 12 pound whole smoked turkeys, 6 to 8 pound mini pit hams for $5.99 a pound. Limit 4 of each item per customer. Call in advance to ensure availability or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Waco Custom Marketplace, your full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitsche Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitsche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitsche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitsche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Paul and Craig here. Smokey back tomorrow's. We'll be live from Amon Carter Stadium in Fort Worth for the Armed Forces Bowl. 3 to 4:30 normal show. 4:30 to 6 will be pregame for Baylor and Air Force Scene. Also locally on KWTX. Olin Buchanan from TexAgs.com joins us now. And Olin, I'm not sure what the bigger story about A&M is today. If it's that, you know, they had this great class coming off a really rough year, as you know, or if Jimbo Fisher saying, yes, he's going to hire an OC who's going to call plays, and he realizes that his focus needs to be elsewhere when it comes to what his job is in College Station.
Well, he's been it's been understood around here for the last
month or so that he was eventually going to, whenever it does hire an offensive coordinator, whoever that may be, would be in charge of calling plays. Now, everybody's wearing the headset, so the head coach always has the final say. But if you watched A&M this year, it was obvious that the play calling responsibilities was just, I don't want to say too much for Jimbo, but, he's yelling at an official, and then he's calling a play, and then he's trying to get the right personnel in. And by the time all that happens, a lot of times they're having to burn a timeout because they don't have, not everything's right. They got guys jumping. They're getting a lot of delayed games. So, most, it seems to me, I've never actually wrote it down, but it seems like most coaches now do have a coordinator calling plays. I just think it'll be I think that'll make A&M more efficient when they do hire that offensive coordinator, whoever that may be, and he does take over the play calling duties.
And Olin, one of those players that there'll be several new players that OC will have at their disposal. But I guess let's start with the big quarterback flip. Marcel Reed, Aggies land their QB target for the end of this class. And I know there's still, I guess, more time to fill out the rest of it and transfer portal and all of that. But how big was the Marcel Reed get?
Well, I think it was huge because, quite frankly, with the guys transferring out, Haynes King and, Eli Stowers, you had Max Johnson, and you have Connor Wigman. And that's it. And, just last season, they had to play three quarterbacks. At one point, there was even some talk that a fourth one might play. So getting in another guy, especially a guy that is pretty highly regarded and that another SEC West team wanted, and the fact that it was that you flipped him from Lane Kiffin makes it even that much sweeter. But that was without a doubt a need. And, A&M had a kid, Eli Holstein out of Louisiana, committed early, and then he flipped to Alabama, so they had to try to play catch up on some guys. They went hard after Austin Novosad from Dripping Springs, but he decided to stick with a commitment to Baylor, which I understand he did not honor.
Yeah.
So A&M
been a day here, Olin. Been a day.
Yeah. And so to get one again, especially one that was pretty highly regarded, I think, it was a big deal for them.
Yeah, we heard that news last night that he was going to Oregon and not.
That surprises me. I thought he was one of those guys that was, he was 100%. Was 100% locked in. So that really surprised me when I heard that.
Yeah. You were in El Campo today for Ruben Owens signing, the big 5-star running back. He was committed to Louisville for the longest time. This is probably A&M's biggest flip of the ones that they did. And I kind of got the feeling, just not only reading your stuff at Texags or everybody else, that pretty much the entire group of people that cover A&M recruiting just never felt like Louisville was a real thing for him. Was it not so much of a surprise when that happened after Scott Satterfield left and took the job for Cincinnati?
Well, I think that Ruben was always, his dad told me today their heart was always with A&M. And, I don't know if you've ever been down to El Campo, but it's a big farming town. So Ruben himself says it's like 90% of the population are Aggies. And he liked A&M. He just kind of liked what he saw. He had some friends going to Louisville that had met, the camps and things like that. But he never closed the door on A&M. And A&M told him when he committed, said, "Well, we're gonna keep recruiting you until signing day." And he said that he appreciated it. He liked it. And I think the move from Satterfield again gave him a reason. But he told me today that he probably would have flipped anyway.
Olin, who are, I guess a couple of the most important guys? I mean, Ruben Owens, obviously a headliner, Reed, a headliner, but where was kind of your focus in terms of this class?
Well, I thought that they really needed to upgrade or at least get some depth in the offensive line. So being able to close out on T.J. Shanahan from Austin, Westlake, and Chase Basantis from New Jersey, I think was really key. And then anybody that watched the Aggies last year would know there was a huge need at linebackers. Real disappointment that they were not able to hold on to Anthony Hill, but they feel really good about Damian Sanford out of Katy. They had a kid from Temple, Torian York, and even one from College Station that it might be a little bit of a project, but he shows some some athleticism, and his dad's one of the strength coaches at A&M. So they can always use another linebacker. I'm sure they'll be looking for one in the transfer portal, but those were two really huge positions of need. And quite frankly, adding getting the flip from, I think it was Arkansas, Micah Teeth out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, as a receiver, that's important, even though, they had Bravion Rogers, an athlete out of LaGrange, and Dalton Brooks, an athlete out of Shiner, that they were really excited about. But I think they want to put both those guys on defense. They could play receiver, but I think they want them on defense.
Yeah. Olin, much has been made about the 22 guys in the portal. I think of those 22, maybe 3 of them they would have really liked to stay. I mean, this was clearly the kind of a culling of the herd on that roster, obviously. But who do they need to replace there, like in the transfer portal, that left?
That's a heck of a good question. I think it's more about guys that went into decided to go to the draft.
Mm-hmm.
I think they need a cornerback. They weren't counting on necessarily on Jalen Jones going into the draft. They had a few guys there that had, that went to the portal. Miles Jones, who had a really good year in 2020, but's been struggling with foot injury the last 2 years. So I don't know what they really expected from him. Brian George has been he's kind of a stopgap guy since he showed he went to the portal. So I think cornerback is really important, but I don't think it's I don't think the guys they lost. It's very important, but I don't think the guys that went into the portal were the guys that they necessarily hated to lose. Now, Denver Harris, the freshman cornerback, you would have loved to been able to keep him, but he was he was involved in 2 issues where he was suspended, got in trouble twice. So I think he's the kind of guy that he's got a lot of ability. Wherever he goes up, they're going to get a really good football player. But I think that was one of those things where he could have gone just about anywhere and he would be in the transfer portal because some of the things that he and Chris Marshall and another guy, PJ Williams, a tackle, some of the things they were involved in, you just can't keep them around. You've got to let them go. I think the as good as they were or as good a prospects as they were, sometimes there's got to there may be a mutual agreement that it's time to go.
Oh, and I don't know how quickly he'll see the field, but I can tell you that Torian York pickup, I think, was a really good one. In terms of, like, character, I know that kind of becomes almost cliche. You hear it so often, but, truly, that guy, super hard worker. I think just from, like, a foundational, not foundation like a big-time 5-star type player, but I think from, like, just a program foundation standpoint, Torian York's a really important get just from the hard-working standpoint.
Well, I think, I think after last year, I think, and not just at A&M, a lot of places are going to look really more closely at the quote character aspect of a guy, because so many guys are so quick to go into the portal, and if you got a guy that understands that, hey, I need to work my way into the starting lineup, and from what I hear, York is a really one of those guys that for Temple, you really notice him when he plays, really stand out. But, he's going to have to probably put on some weight and adjust to playing at that level. But from what I've been told, he's the kind of guy that would probably understand that it's not, if I'm not showing up on day one in the starting lineup, you're not saying, well, that maybe I need to look elsewhere. And maybe not a guy that's showing up, demanding his, big NIL deal. Where are the boosters for me? So if he's as high character of guy as I've heard he is, and if he flashes the way I heard he does at Temple, the way he did at Temple, then yeah, I understand. Was he not committed to Baylor or something?
He was up until like a week ago. They fired the DC, and I think that had something to do with it. But the more I hear, the more I think just A&M was an attractive option for him.
Well, that's it. So we're talking about a guy that other big time programs are interested in, and it's absolutely a position of need. So I don't want to call him a project like the kid from College Station might be, but if you put some weight on him and get him looking like an SEC linebacker does physically, then what you've seen from his ability, you look at him and think, man, this could really be something, but it may take a year or two.
Owen Buchanan, TexAgs.com. Owen, when do you expect to hear an OC announcement? Do you have any inkling as to what they're going to do? I mean, you have no idea?
Yeah, I have no idea because, quite frankly, I would have bet money that last week that they would have had something. I would have thought they would want to get that done before signing day, and obviously, they didn't. So, you know what? I'm starting to think that maybe, and I don't know this. It's just my own speculation. Maybe they've got an agreement with somebody, or near an agreement with somebody who is involved with, games coming up. That still has a game coming up, and sometimes those guys have contracts where if they're the coach at a certain place on January 1st, they get a big bonus or something like that. So I'm starting to think that maybe they've got who they want identified, maybe even have an agreement, but they just got to wait for that team's season to be over, or for him to get his most advantageous contract from the previous place. I don't know that for a fact, but that's what I'm starting to believe.
Owen Buchanan, TexAgs.com. Owen, thanks a lot. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to everybody up there, too. Thank you so much.
Our good friend Owen Buchanan, TexAgs.com. And Craig, I don't know when this came about. We didn't mention it on the show yet today. I don't know if you guys talked about it, but Josh Fleek's going to Nebraska. That's kind of, that's not a shock that he wound up there. But I do wonder what he expects his role to be there.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's not a shock because he got recruited by Matt Rule and that staff a few years ago. I thought he might go to Tech, but I don't think they have room or need for him. So, the other spot that makes the most sense, quite frankly, is Nebraska. But, I have zero idea. He hadn't been on the Baylor roster since, mid-October or something like that. So, even when he wasn't a big factor. He was kind of typical of being a social media darling. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that to, badmouth him in any way. It's just, it's true. There's certain guys that, a reporter or two, just get hung up on, and they're not using him right, and they're not. It's oh, really? Because every time I saw him, he was not getting any yardage, or he wasn't taking advantage of the carries he got, and it just wasn't working out. And so when he jumped in the portal, it was absolutely no surprise whatsoever. But you're going to lead me to believe that because he had a ranking at one point in time, that this is a massive loss. Right. And I figured it would probably be Tech, and they could find a way to best utilize him because of McGuire's familiarity. But I don't think that they had the spot, and Nebraska's obviously reshuffling the deck and could use a good athlete, so that's what he'll be. And I don't know, wide receiver, running back. He did a little bit of a lot of things, I guess, here as far as his role on offense goes. So he'll be a guy that you just kind of adjust how best you need him, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, he's a talent. He's got athletic ability, and Matt Rule knows, but I think he's kind of also a victim of, he had 2 or 3 really good plays over his tenure where it was oh man, that guy can run. Scored a big touchdown in a game. Had a I guess it was a kick return against Oklahoma State or something. I can't remember what it was. Oklahoma State in Stillwater. He had a big long play. He didn't score on it, but it was a big long play. And it was oh wow, man, that guy can run. But the hope is if you're in a Power 5 conference, so can everybody on your team.
That's the thing. Is wow, he ran fast that one time. He had 3 touchdowns in 5 years, or 4.5 years, and. He had 5. He had a couple, one rushing, 1 receiving his freshman year, 1 rushing, 1 receiving his sophomore year, 1 rushing, 0 receiving his junior year, and then 0 touchdowns the last year and a half. So, Yeah, I mean, 795 yards from scrimmage total and 5 touchdowns is what he ended up with over the 4.5 years. And I don't, I wish him the best. He just, it was just like I kept hearing, like, what about Josh Fleeks, or why aren't they using Josh Fleeks? And it's like, I mean, I think they've tried and it doesn't amount to anything. So that was just a non-surprise when he decided to move on, and I wish him the best, and hopefully he, does some really good things for the Cornhuskers. Yeah, John Machota, the Athletic, comes up in just a second. It's kind of just a palate cleanser for me of talking about recruiting all day long. I do want to talk about this, and I want to see Craig's eye roll on camera, but Travis Hunter of Jackson State, who was the top recruit last year that flipped to Jackson State right at the end. He was committed to FSU. He said that when he today put it out, when he got to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, that he would make his commitment. He is 300 away, and I believe he's gotten about 70,000 of those subscribers today. So I don't know what I could offer to get us those kind of numbers in a day. I think there's no idea. Honestly, I've got nothing to offer the people that would get us to that. I have nothing, And then here's the thing that's going to be really sad about this is that all these people are going to go subscribe to his channel that are fans of other schools, thinking like, oh, he's going to say this school, he's going to say Georgia, he's going to say FSU, he's going to say USC, he's going to say it, and he's going to come on and be like, hey, thanks for subscribing to my channel and giving me such great monetization. I'm going to Colorado. Yeah, probably. That's what he's going to do. Yeah, probably, and props to him. I feel like if you don't say like this is the coolest thing ever, then you're automatically like out of touch or something. I think it's a cool idea. I guess if your goal is to get 100,000 subscribers, then that's a surefire way of doing it. Not sure what his grand plans are or what even is on his YouTube channel. I won't be subscribing because I'll just wait for another 3,000 people to accomplish that or whatever. He is 100 now. Okay. Since we've been talking. Okay. Well, so yeah, we'll hear shortly, soon enough then. And yeah, good for him. That's great marketing and whatnot, and really smart idea. Yeah, there are, hold on, I don't know how many total videos. He just hit 100,000 just now as I clicked. There's like 20 videos on his channel. So mostly just him talking, or some highlights and stuff. So, but I guess we'll see in a second what Travis Hunter does. So, I mean, he's making the most of his profile and maximizing and all that. Like I'm not super into the whole social media, I guess, way of life and way of thinking, I guess is the best way to put it. It's not like the forefront of my mind, but I know it's such a massive part of a lot of people's businesses and lives and all of that kind of stuff. And so that's, a really smart way for somebody who's heavily involved in it to maximize the attention they're getting. He may never get this much attention ever again. He's got to go out and actually perform at some point, right? So whether that's at Colorado or wherever he chooses in the next few minutes, I'm sure they've already got a video recorded or he'll go live or something. We'll eventually see where that is. I would probably assume it'd be Colorado still. It seems like a really smart idea, especially with the way they use social media. They just keep maximizing that. But just well done, I guess, in that regard, handling it and trying to get as much exposure as possible. Yeah. If any of our subscribers can tell me what I can offer to get us to 100,000, I would love that. That'd be great for all of us here and all of you for it to get us to 100,000. But I don't know. I'm not getting a tattoo or anything like that. So that's off the table. I'm not going to go do the hot chip challenge and do everything that's been done like that. Emery said he would because I guess he wants one anyway. Well, so. We can let him, let's hit record on him then. He can do that. You can go do that. You get to 100,000, we'll let you pick Emery's tattoo within reason. There you go. Yeah. So, but yeah, that get us to 100,000, and you can see a nice little fluffy bunny on Emery's pack or something. I don't know what we'll do there. We'll take a break right here. When we come back, John Machota of The Athletic. This is 365 Sports.
The Big Finish sales event is happening now at Allen Samuels in Waco. Save big on Jeep models like the new 2023 2- or 3-row Grand Cherokee Limited with total values up to $5,000, plus $500 bonus cash to first responders and no payments for 90 days. Jeep SUVs are known for their design and technology. The Grand Cherokee L even brings you extended seating with a third row. Find the Jeep that fits your family and wrap up some of the best deals of the year at Allen Samuels in Waco.
It's a staggering fact, and one that should give you pause. More than 130,000 trucks drive around Central Texas roads every week, and sadly, as many as 50% of them drive around completely naked, without a stitch of accessory on them. The plight of truck nudity is real. Won't you help? This Christmas, open up your heart to those in need. Maybe a friend, a family member, or maybe it's your truck. Give generously and give them the gift of dignity. An outfit from Pickup Outfitters. At Pickup Outfitters, we're doing our part too. We've extended our Truck Friday specials all the way to Christmas Eve. Like WeatherTech or Husky floor liners, $40 off when you purchase a set. ARE or Lear camper shells, $200 off. Please don't turn a blind eye. Christmas is not the time for a truck to go naked. Give the gift of an outfit from Pickup Outfitters. Fighting truck nudity for 25 years at 220 Lake Erie Drive in Waco.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
You know what, Craig, I just thought of, and it's apropos of this time of year, but we were just talking about Travis Hunter's YouTube channel, and, you know, he's probably going to say he's going to Colorado anyway, which most people think. I don't know if you remember the movie A Christmas Story, but there was a big scene where Ralphie got his little orphan Annie decoder wheel and was listening to the radio show to find out what the secret message was, and it was, be sure to drink your Ovaltine, so it was just a commercial. So after all that, like, it was just a commercial. I do think that that's what's going to be, and there's a bunch of, 40 and 50-year-old people that are going to be waiting with bated breath about this kid who's going to tell them something they already knew.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps that's how it turns out. I mean, I have to wait to see whatever it is that his decision is going to be for those that are interested in that. And, I mean, obviously he's a very highly rated guy, from his previous recruitment. And I don't know where exactly he stands up in the portal rankings, but I imagine he's got to be right there at the top in those. So, I mean, yeah, what a boon for his YouTube channel, which is kind of a weird thing to be locked in on. But that's the new era that we're in is that avenue among others at the disposal of athletes and at programs and all that. So, look forward to hearing whatever that decision is and who he's going to go help. I would assume, like I said a few minutes ago, that it's probably Dion in Colorado. But yeah, this is just part of the I don't know if it's the social media era or the NIL era or whatever. It's a combination of all those things, but there's a lot of, branding and things like that, that, are a different aspect than, what most of us grew up when I certainly when I was following recruiting like 20 years ago, this was not even ever in the thought process. It was just simply like signing day was a big day with surprises, and that was pretty much limited to it. But I never would have thought you'd have guys, bumping their YouTube numbers to announce where they were going. So it's a wild technological world that's advanced over the last couple of decades, and it's been a good payoff for these college players and for the programs.
Yep. Absolutely. Now, look, if you are going to subscribe to something, I would suggest The Athletic, especially if you're a Cowboys fan, to read John Machota's work. John joins us now, as he does every Wednesday. John, it's been an interesting week for the Cowboys, coming off a loss to a resurgent Jacksonville team who's finding their sea legs, and got people asking, who are the Cowboys really? And then you got the Eagles on Christmas Eve without Jalen Hurts and with Gardner Minshew going to start. And so really makes the Green Bay and Jacksonville game really hurt a little bit more now that the Cowboys don't seem to have much of a real opportunity to win that division anymore.
Yeah, and it especially has to hurt because those are two games where it's not like you just, played bad all day and, you played a better team or anything like that. I mean, those are games where you have double-digit leads in the fourth quarter. Those are games that this Cowboys team should win. These are games that if you said it early in the season with how well the defense was playing that, they were going to score 34 points, you'd say, oh, yeah, it doesn't matter who they're playing. They score 34, they're going to win that game. And to lose those two games, and heck, if they don't lose those two, then you're undefeated since Dak has come back, and then you're looking at first place in not only the division, but then number one seed in the playoffs. So I think the fact of they have the talent and they have played at a level that they deserve to be in the conversation as the best team in the NFC, but they haven't proved it. They haven't played like it, and they haven't played like it enough recently. And so I'm interested to see how they go in this game, regardless of, the quarterback position in Philadelphia, just because typically they've responded pretty well this year. They haven't lost back-to-back games. The way they played after losing to Green Bay, to me, was their best game of the season. And probably the best Cowboys game I've seen since I've covered the team in that 42-3 win at Minnesota. So I'm interested to see if they come back and respond like that. It's also a Cowboys team at 7-1 at AT&T Stadium this year. So I expect them to play well on Saturday, regardless of who's at quarterback. It just, I don't know, it takes some of the shine off because it looked like it was lining up for this to be some big, matchup for the division, and it's certainly not anything like that now.
Well, yeah, and they would have to win outright, and the Eagles would have to lose out for them to win the division, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And where the situation they're in for both sides, like if you're Philadelphia, why would you play Jalen Hurts against a team that could potentially hit your quarterback quite a bit with the pass rush they have? And then on the Cowboys side, you're not going to have Leighton Vander Esch for this game. You might not have him for the rest of the regular season. And then, so, those are different things that you would probably be trying to play some guys that are maybe banged up a little bit more if you did think that there was still a chance that you can win the division. And I just don't think that after this Sunday, I think you're going to see some guys getting a rest and things like that because of the fact that if they can't improve their standings, then it doesn't make sense to put guys out there that are a little banged up. Get them as healthy as possible and get ready for whoever it is, Tampa Bay or whoever wins the NFC South.
So the Cowboys on defense, really, really thin right now. Leighton Vander Esch not going to play this week, which means more Anthony Barr. It means more Damone Clark. Cornerback, what's going on there? How do they shuffle that deck with Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland, and whoever else?
Yeah, the whoever else is going to be interesting because it could go with Nashawn Wright, who finished the game Sunday in Jacksonville. It could be they go back to Kelvin Joseph, who started the game Sunday in Jacksonville. Or they could go with moving Deron Bland to the outside and maybe having a guy like Mackenzie Alexander play in the slot. The guys that haven't been in the mix that they've added recently are Mackenzie Alexander, Kendall Sheffield, and Trayvon Mullen. I don't know that Trayvon Mullen's ready yet just because he's just joined the team recently, but he's the guy that has the best size that you'd want to be an outside corner because if they had another guy they felt real confident with on an outside corner spot, I don't think you move Deron Bland at all because I think clearly his best spot is in the slot. But if they don't find anybody that really can play on the outside up to those capabilities, then it makes sense. Move Deron Bland out there. Let Mackenzie Alexander play on the inside. Maybe that's your best bet there because my big thing is when you have Trayvon Diggs on one side, that other corner, which it was Anthony Brown, to me, it doesn't have to be some guy that's a big-time playmaker. It just needs to be someone who's solid, who knows the defense and isn't going to make huge mistakes, not going to bite on double moves that give up long touchdowns. It's just going to be very, technically, fundamentally sound. If they can find one of those guys, I think they're fine there, but they're certainly thin at corner. That's got to be the biggest concern position on the team right now.
From the bad news of this week to the good news, they have, John, one of the things we talked about in the offseason, everybody who covers the team was, the offensive line just doesn't feel like it's going to be that good, but they've fallen into one of the better ones they've had in a few years. And that even started with a surefire Hall of Famer tearing his hamstrings. And now he's the starting right tackle. Like, how did they fall into this?
Well, going out and getting Jason Peters helps because then you have your swing tackle and who's a veteran who also can step in and play for you. Now, I don't think they feel comfortable playing him for an entire game and playing him multiple games in a row. But when he has been out there, when they needed him in a pinch, he's played at a pretty good level. So that's helped. I think the biggest thing, though, we would have to point to is really that Tyler Smith has been able to step in and play left tackle immediately at a pretty high level and be a lot better than any of us were probably expecting when they drafted him, mainly because we thought he was going to be their left guard. We thought kicking him out of left tackle that there was going to be a lot of issues with that. And, yeah, there's been growing pains, but he's held up pretty nicely. So that allows you to be able to move Tyron Smith over to right tackle. And, frankly, I don't think Tyron Smith would have any problems playing right tackle. I mean, was there some rust in the game against Jacksonville? Yeah, probably a little bit. And that's to be expected, not just of not playing right tackle since 2011, but the fact that you haven't played all season. But the thing that I go back to on the Tyron Smith stuff is, but will you have him for the rest of the way? If you tell me he can stay healthy from here to whenever their season ends, however deep they go in the playoffs, I think the offensive line's fine. But it is just that thing with Tyron Smith where you're just always kind of wondering what's going to be next. Is it going to be a shoulder, elbow, hamstring, ankle, knee, neck? What is it going to be that's going to end up taking him out of a game? But if he can avoid that and he can go on a stretch where every week here on out they have Tyron Smith at right tackle, this offensive line will be just fine.
John, they've got this game, and then they have the Titans on Thursday night. That's a team that's kind of reeling right now and won't have Ryan Tannehill for the rest of the year. Nothing they do for the rest of the year matters much, does it?
In terms of how it would help their playoff standings, no. But I also don't think that they want to go back into the playoffs not playing well. You don't want your last game before the playoffs to be an effort like that Jacksonville game where you blow a lead or the defense just looks awful and gives up 40 points. Like, you don't want that. You want to go in playing pretty sound. You don't want guys being, missing tackles and just not being fundamentally sound on defense. I think that's the big thing there. I think the offense will take care of itself as long as they can avoid any more injuries there. I think they'll be fine. I'm not overly concerned about the Dak Prescott interceptions right now just because, frankly, I think there's been some bad luck in them. And then second of all, I just like the aggressiveness that he's playing with. I believe for them to make a deep playoff run to potentially get to a Super Bowl, he's going to have to be aggressive. I don't think him just being a game manager would get them past several good teams to win any playoff games. I don't think they would get that far just running the ball and leaning on their defense. Certainly now with the way the defense is played, I don't feel that way. So I like his aggressiveness. It's just that defensive side. Can they play fundamentally sound, be accountable, not have issues, not having blown assignments? If they can do that, then I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I thought the criticism for the interception in overtime this week from anyone was completely unfounded because it was really kind of a heck of a throw. Noah Brown just let it hit him in both hands and didn't catch it.
Absolutely, but I think that because Dak has had the most interceptions since week 7 in the NFL, that is one of those things where it's easy to point to and be like, Cowboys quarterback, all these interceptions. That's the problem. That's why they're losing. You don't have to watch the games. You don't have to sit there and look at any all 22. All you have to do is look at that and be like, that's why they haven't played as well since he's been back. When really they've played better since he's been back. But anytime you do lead in any interception categories, you can't be also silly enough to think that they're all just bad luck and they're just all on someone else, or they're all on just, this guy being in the right place at the right time. Some of it is on your quarterback, and Dak has taken, accountability for that. I maintain that I think that they'd be fine if he just gets it down to, if he throws one interception a game, I don't think that's an issue. It's when they get that 2-3 turnovers, that's when it becomes a problem. Because heck, just go back to last year. Matthew Stafford led the NFL in interceptions with 17, goes to the playoffs. He threw 3 in their 4 postseason games. They go on, they win the Super Bowl. So I don't look at Dak's interceptions and go, that's what is going to keep the Cowboys from winning the Super Bowl. I look at the way their defense is playing. If it plays like it did in that second half, particularly the fourth quarter against Jacksonville and Green Bay, that would be the one that keeps them from making a deep playoff run.
Is the day coming where nobody will have to ask Jerry Jones about Odell Beckham until free agency starts?
And I'll tell you what, it certainly felt that way on, Tuesday morning when he did his radio show. Jerry sounded down. It's like one of those things where you're listening to it, and you're like, you feel like,
I think we lost John.
Think so,
yeah. Yeah, okay.
Think so.
You think we lost him. All right, well, that was John, you there? All right, well, I'll text him in a second. We got to get to the break. Anyway, but yeah, he did sound down. I heard it. He was bummed about not doing that. Anything we need to clean up before I get to the top 5, Craig? It's been a long day for you, I know.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think I've hit on everything that I'd like to. Just waiting on, I guess people are waiting on to see what Travis Hunter ultimately does when he does, but I don't know how long he could drag that out till the end of the night for all we know. So now he's got the attention and got the subscriber counts, and now I guess some fan bases will await what he does. But outside of that, I think we kind of covered a lot of the ground for Baylor, and also a lot of ground in the Big 12 as well. So I'm pretty good on my end here.
All right, good deal. Glad to know it. When we come back, the top 5 flips of signing day so far. There's 1 or 2 out there that could happen, but we'll see. They haven't happened yet. But so far, as of when I sent it to Emory at 1:45 this afternoon, those are the 5 biggest flips. We're coming back right after this 365 Sports.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Welcome back. Top 5 National Signing Day flips to this point. Again, Cormani McClain Garrett could flip to Colorado from Miami.
Yeah.
He had already changed from Florida to Miami, and he could flip from Miami to Colorado.
I'm about 95% certain that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that, like, if he was going to sign with Miami, he would just gone to Miami.
Wouldn't send his mom out there to send a note.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he did. So she sent a tweet today. He's out there. There's a couple others, but like as far as like the big, heavy 4-star or class-changing flips. I could just do this whole list on Oregon, by the way, because that's just apparently what their strategy is to let everybody else do the work and then swoop in at the last second and be like, hey, you want to go to Oregon? We have Nike. You know, I don't know. And I don't know how much Nike is involved in that part of it. I'm sure it has to be some, but, you know, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, well, of course, we'll never know, Craig. There's nobody that has to tell us.
No. I mean, we can speculate all we want to on, you know, whatever, accuse people of whatever, but I mean, it's you know, not ever going to be substantiated. So Jeff Traylor's comments are timely, but, you know, unless he's calling out who he's talking about, it doesn't really change anything because everybody knows what's going on. And Oregon's a great brand, and I'm sure, you know, Phil Knight somehow or another had, you know, or something, some extension of Phil Knight had some effect on, you know, their NIL game and subsequently their class, but that's all legal and fair. So, yeah, congrats to the Ducks.
Yeah. But number 5, Keldrick Falk flipped from Florida State to Auburn. This is not because it's Florida State, but at the time this was the big one. In Auburn, they had an Oregon type day, but to a bit of a lower level. And they did not start out, obviously, in the recruiting cycle doing really well. Hugh Freeze has been on the job less than 2 full weeks and has really started to close out well and started by flipping guys that are from that region. This kid's from Georgia, like just a stone's throw from Auburn. went and got him. It's a big get for a team in Auburn that, before their recruiting class, and Gary, you know this, was not really, they were very middle of the pack.
Pretty average, yeah.
And they're very average. Now they're up in the top, 20, I guess, since Hugh Freeze got there. And this is one of the kids that got, and the reason I put him on here is he literally flipped this morning. I mean, he was, everybody thought he was going to Tallahassee until today, and then he's on his way to the Plains. So that's a big one there. Number 4, one that Craig talked about at length this morning, and we talked about a lot, Austin Novosad from Baylor to Oregon. This one, Craig, in the overall, nobody knows how good he's going to be at Oregon, and nobody knows how good he was going to be at Baylor. But for Baylor in particular, this just puts a big bullet hole in their class because they don't have option B yet. And there's certainly time with the transfer portal and another signing day coming up, but particularly at the quarterback position, because of early enrollees, this is the day you want to get your quarterback in, and plan B is they don't know right now.
Yeah, I can't wait to not talk about him after today because, man, just a lot of time, and that's not a knock on him being on here. He deserves to be on here. I think I've said my piece on Austin Novosad today since, 8 a.m. We've been talking about him and that flip. I'll say what I said earlier in the day. I think this is a bigger loss for Baylor than it is a win for Oregon. Mm-hmm. So in terms of flips, like if you're saying like most, debilitating or something, I think he'd be more apt there because he's a big get for Oregon, but honestly, like he wasn't even the biggest get they got today.
Yeah.
So, in terms of flips, it was a big one. But, I think for Oregon with all that's going on there, like he's just another guy in a group of guys that they were able to land today. It's a good one. I don't think that they're like, oh, who's he, some average Joe or anything. I just, like, there's a lot of focus on one side on this one particular guy that was lost. And then on the other side, there's just like this whole accumulation of new faces that they're all just excited about. So, it's a good get for them, one of many on the day for the Ducks, and it leaves Baylor in the lurch, and they'll have to figure their way out of it. That's what happens when you go all in on one guy and let him know that he's the guy, and he decides to change his mind late in the game. That's just part of the deal.
Number 3, Peyton Bowen flipped from Notre Dame to Oregon with also a push in there from Oklahoma. Just saw a tweet that he has not sent in his letter yet, but this would, of course, and if this changes, then we can take him off the list. But this was the biggest one that you talked about. Like the bigger. This is one bigger for Oregon than Novosad would be because he's a higher rated prospect.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. It would be. I don't know like their depth chart there as opposed to quarterback where I know they've already got some guys, and that's why the Novosad thing isn't as pressing as it was in theory for Baylor, just having the one scholarship quarterback heading into tomorrow night's bowl game and heading into next spring as it stands right now. This is one that I don't think is official just yet. So it looks like he's probably still going to sign with Oregon, but I do think that that's temporarily delayed or something. I can't really tell outside of just a couple tweets that I saw that he wasn't signing as of yet. So we'll see. I'd assume, given all their success today, he probably ends up at Oregon like everybody else seemingly has. And another really good get for the Ducks. Yeah, on a big day for them and a tough loss for Notre Dame for sure.
Number 2, Ruben Owens going to Texas A&M from Louisville, and we just had Owen Buchanan on a little less than an hour ago talking about this, and it just always kind of felt that this was going to happen, and then when Scott Satterfield left, it kind of gave them, like he said, that kind of gave the family the opening to go, okay, well, this is the time to do this now. But he's from El Campo. It's a town full of Aggies. It's a farming town. It would have felt kind of silly had a 5-star guy from El Campo, Texas, not gone to the farmer university, that yells out farmers fight during the game. And it just seemed like, fait accompli with him. But this is huge for the Aggies coming off a year where they lose, back-to-back years where they lost Isaiah Spiller last year. They're losing Devin Achane this year. They need to, replant the garden there at running back, and Ruben Owens is I don't know if he's the most sought after running back in the nation, but he's pretty close. He's in the top 3 of that very position.
Yeah, some argue Cedric Baxter, whoever else you want to throw in there as far as the top running back goes. But yeah, this was a big get for them. Took advantage of the coaching change up at Louisville, and Yeah, just a good get for Jimbo Fisher and company. And in this era, like your previous season just doesn't even really seem to matter. It's just what you can go do in the portal and with NIL and with your signing days. And A&M certainly not letting a disappointing year hinder them in any way. And, this is a good one to keep close to home.
Yep. And number 1, Caden Proctor goes from Iowa to Alabama. And, you mentioned it yesterday, Craig. I mean, Iowa had this guy forever. He's from Des Moines. There's, they think, okay, this is the best player. This is one of the highest rated players to come out of that state in maybe 20 years out of Iowa. Just about how many people wanted him, and they were going to be able to keep him home. And then the day before signing day, the big bad wolf, Alabama, comes in and just flips him like that. And it's not a shock that Alabama can come in and flip anybody, but it does have to feel, like watching your kitty die if you're Iowa. I mean, after all that work they put in, and here's Alabama just coming and going, hey, so you want to come here? And then, yeah, sure, it's Alabama. Why not? You only live once.
Yeah, going back to Oregon for a second, I guess today they landed 5-star Mateo Uiagalelei, 5-star Peyton Bowen, which was a flip, 4-star Austin Novosad, which was a flip, 4-star Dalen Austin was a flip, 4-star Jaden Lamar is a flip, and now I think they're adding some offensive linemen from Rhode Island as well. I didn't quite catch the names just scrolling there.
Was that the transfer?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know who you're referring to, honestly. So, it may be Ajani Cornelius,
yes.
I think.
Yeah, he's a big-time transfer.
Yeah, so they just landed him as well. So there's some more breaking news for Oregon on a very big day for the Ducks. And, who were we just talking about?
We're talking about Caden Porter.
Caden.
Or Proctor. Sorry, it's Proctor.
Yeah, that's, a big-time offensive lineman. And Alabama flipping a guy and getting him on National Signing Days, time-honored tradition in so many ways. So that's not a grand surprise. And at least they got a little bit of a heads up, I guess, yesterday. Not that they, could go get another big, time offensive lineman there for the Hawkeyes to replace him. But I'm sure they'll be on the lookout now. And great get for Alabama, who, is still Alabama, but it doesn't feel like they really have like that grand momentum that they typically would. Like some of that shine's gone elsewhere now, and some of that shine's being shown on Oregon right now or on Georgia right now or on whoever, but it's still Bama. They're still going to get their fair share of dogs, and they definitely got one in the big-time offensive line prospect in Proctor.
All right, that's going to do it for us, Craig. Thank you so much. You had a 3-hour show and then another 3-hour show, and having done that before in my career, it's never easy to do when you have long days like this. So thank you so much. You did great work, both shows today.
Thank you.
And you get to the end of the show and you feel like I have no more words. Like that's.
I had to go drive up to Dallas now.
Yeah,
so,
go to Dallas.
But I'll sit in silence. I'm sure. I don't have much. I don't like people out there don't know. I don't talk a lot off the air. Like I talk more on air than I talk in real life. And so 6 hours for me. Like I could not talk for the next 3 days, and I would be perfectly content with that. But we'll be back tomorrow to. I don't want to like just dismiss this bowl game. I'm just going to be happy when it's over.
Yeah.
We're going to be really relieved when it's over and we can all go celebrate Christmas break. Hopefully it's a good game. I'm sure it will be. The weather's going to be nasty and it's going to be weird playing in TCU Stadium and all that. But I'm looking forward to putting a bow on this week and Baylor in particular. Turning the page officially tomorrow night and hopefully in a good direction. But turning that page and getting, this season in the rear view because it's been a rough last month or so.
Yeah. So just to give you a quick preview of what's going to happen holiday week so you can start making plans, we will have a normal-ish show tomorrow that's going to be kind of half and half pregame show, kind of like we've done in the past when Baylor played on a Thursday night earlier in the year. Friday will be Smokey here doing a full 3 hours. Craig and I will be off. Then everybody's off for the 26th, 27th, 28th. We're back on the 29th, 30th and January 2nd, we'll be doing 9 to 11 a.m. shows, which we will replay in the 3 o'clock spot. So if you can't make the 9 to 11, we were going to coordinate them around those bowl games so they're relevant and everything for that particular day or the next day. So that's what we're going to do holiday week. That's the first time we'll say it. We'll say it many other times before we go to break, so you know. But that's the plan coming up for holiday week. We are live from Amon Carter Stadium tomorrow, 3 to 6, and 4:30 to 6, of course, on KWTX. For the Armed Forces Bowl, Baylor and Air Force tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. When you do, have a great night, everybody.